Call this meeting to order. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, those in the gallery as well as members of council and those watching on COGECO. This evening we're going to be following two agendas. We have our first agenda, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting, and of course, as always, those issues that we deal with, debate, during Committee of the Whole will then be brought before us during our council portion of this evening's agenda. So with that, we're going to start this evening off with a prayer from Councillor Bill Steele, followed by the national anthem by Mr. Joe Longfellow. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a prayer for spring. This is your garden, Lord, a thing of beauty beyond understanding, a poem that is being written, not in words but in colors. Winds whisper, soaring bird, snowdrops petal, gentle rain, sunlight's warmth. This is your garden, Lord, a thing of beauty beyond understanding. May we ask these in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons' command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Joel. As always, well done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My pleasure as always.
Members of council, we're now going to get into the agenda. First off, Madam Clerk, are there any addendum items?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members of council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Mover and seconder, Councillor Doucette, Councillor Bodner. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest this evening? Councillor Danch. Thank you, Councillor. If I can have a member of council ensure that it's raised when we get to that portion of the meeting. Further disclosures? With none, we'll move on to items requiring a separate discussion this evening. Set up with Councillor Bodner. Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 3, 10, and 19 for Councillor Danch's.
Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Item 1 and 2.
Councillor Elliott.
Item 6.
Councillor Kenny.
2, 6, 11, and 13.
Councillor Butters.
I would like to speak to 13 as well.
Members of council, further items. Councillor Elliott.
Pull item 4.
If we can have item 12 lifted as well, members. If I can have Councillor Kenny, thank you. And Mr. Howell, I'm going to have you speak on that just to give you a heads up so you can get your thoughts together. Number 12. Okay, members of council, we have those items requiring separate discussion lifted. I will now need a motion to move the remainder of the items, please. Councillor Doucette, Councillor Kenny, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Before I go on to my presentations, I'm going to, if members of council don't mind, I'm going to accept our first delegation this evening. We have with us Gary Bellhouse, the chairperson of the Big Move Cancer Ride, and Sandra Sabo, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the SCGH Foundation, regarding an update on the Big Move Cancer Ride in support of the Walker Family Cancer Center. So members of council, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask and call upon that delegation right now. Is that fine with you guys? Just want to deviate from the agenda a bit here. Okay. So Mr. Bellhouse and Ms. Sabo, come on up.
Thank you very much.
If you want to just come up to the podium, yeah,
Okay.
that would be fine. And
I'm just going to make a brief introduction.
if you want to go to the podium,
To the podium.
and if you want to press the gray button, and you're good to go. The floor is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor, Your Mayor, Mr. Badaway, members of council, members of staff, fellow members in the gallery. Again, my name is Gary Bellhouse. I'm a resident in Waynfleet for the last 20 years. I'm a member of the Port Colborne Waynfleet Chamber of Commerce, and I've had the pleasure of being the chairperson for the Big Move Cancer Ride for the last, this will be my 4th year. To give you an example, last year we had over 500 riders ride out of Club Roma, and we raised almost $500,000. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Sandra Sabo, who is the Chief Operating Officer for the SCGH Foundation. I'm a volunteer, and every ride we have, there's myself and probably 300 other volunteers that make that just a wonderful day to go ride your bike and raise money for the new Walker Family Cancer Center.
Thank you, Gary. Sandra, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff, and guests this evening. I was born in the Port Colborne Hospital and raised in Waynfleet, and my dad still lives there, and it gives me great pleasure to be here at the city to present the Big Move Cancer Ride. Thank you so very, very much. The Big Move Cancer Ride has raised a net revenue of $1.18 million in 3 years for the Walker Family Cancer Center. Walker Family Cancer Center is going to be opening in March of 2013, literally 1 year from now, and it means that all of our family, friends, loved ones, anyone who's had to travel outside to Hamilton, London, or Toronto will be able to receive treatment here locally. All of the proceeds, all of the support that we raise from sponsorships, from raising pledges, any donations that come toward the Big Move Cancer Ride are all going to the Walker Family Cancer Center in support of equipment and services. And I'm not sure if you folks are aware of that, but here in the province of Ontario, someone in Ontario hears the word, "You have cancer," every 8 minutes. As I just recently mentioned, it was opening in 2013, and once completed, our Walker Family Cancer Center will be servicing 95% of our residents in Niagara. Why only 95%? Is because there is going to be some specialized pediatric treatment that will have to continue to go to Toronto. The photograph of the new hospital that's situated on 1st and Louse Street, as you can see with the circle, that is the location of the Walker Family Cancer Center. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of driving past lately, but it is so encouraging to see. There's actually areas inside the hospital that are finished. Carpets are down, floors are down, walls are painted, and every day there's a staff of 700 that are in there completing the project. The Walker Family Cancer Center is going to provide radiation to over 1,000 patients from here in Niagara that travel outside. As many of you are well aware, we have been providing chemotherapy treatment at the General Hospital, inpatient and outpatient. The unique aspect of the Walker Family Cancer Center is going to be because of the first radiation treatment that it's going to in-house. We're opening with 3 radiation bunkers, and there's going to be area for increasing and as the patients through the years to add another additional 2 bunkers. Will accommodate approximately 80,000 patients per year. And there is an artist rendition there of the inside of the chemo Infusion Bay. And just to give you an idea of the increase in staff, we currently are operating the chemotherapy suite at the General Hospital with approximately, I think it's 49 staff. That's 7 oncologists with our pharmacists and staff on the floor with our nurses. And it's going to literally triple by the time that we do open. So the 4th annual Big Move Cancer Ride is coming up this Sunday, September the 9th, 2012. About the ride, you can sign up and register to ride 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, or the Century Ride, which is 100 miles. And for some of you that think, oh my goodness, that just seems like it's going to be so difficult. Well, I can share with you my own personal story. When I started talking to Gary 5 years ago and asking him if he would consider volunteering and chairing the committee of approximately a half a dozen people at that time, I said to him, you know something, I am just so excited about the prospect of putting this together and making this happen and raising the funds for the Cancer Center, but I haven't been on my bike in over 10 years. I don't even know if my bike still works. So I said, if I'm going to sell it, I got to ride it. So the first year I rode the 50 kilometer, finished it. The second year I rode the 100 kilometer, finished it. I even had a flat tire on the course, but even with having to stop and try and change my flat with the help of a road marshal, I wasn't the last person to come in. And believe me, we do have a time frame. We wouldn't want to leave anyone out there after dark. But what I will share with you is that it's a wonderful way of getting some exercise, traveling with family members, putting together a great team, or even if it's just your own personal challenge. It's in beautiful Niagara that starts, as Gary had mentioned, in West St. Catharines out of Colborne, and we finish there. And with the Centurion Ride, the 100-mile, we even come into various parts of Wainfleet, Welland Road, places like that. And we're hoping to ask all of you this evening to spread the word and to talk to your family and friends and maybe think about it to your own personal challenge, as I said, or just come out and support us. Excuse me, just want to back up. Yes, there we go. I just wanted you to take a moment to share this with you.
I'm a pickpocket. I like to term myself. I look for money for this cause, and I've been very successful thanks to a lot of friends and family and even enemies.
But I'm writing in honor, in memory of my husband, and in honor of a niece.
It's my second bike ride for the Big Move, and it's been inspiring to get out with her as well as other friends and family to get some proper exercise as well as for a good cause.
She died of pancreatic cancer. She was honestly like a really amazing woman. She battled it for a while, and sadly she passed away. And yeah, and we all missed her.
Carrie, my aunt, she used to teach my girls piano. She sang with the Canadian Opera Company. She died with bone marrow cancer, so I'm doing it for her. Yeah, strong lady.
It was just fantastic, a great day, great weather, lots of riders, and this is the 3rd annual, and we want to keep doing it. It's just a fantastic way to build for cancer care, one pedal at a time. It's a fantastic day.
That truly explains the nature of the day and why it's so important for all of us here in Niagara to want to support our own regional cancer center. About the ride, we have many rest stations. There's lots of ways that you can register. You can visit us online. We have an early bird registration, so I would please encourage you to consider that. And just very quickly, and I will finish, I wanted to mention that there was a full-page ad in today's Standard in regard to one of your own Port Colborne residents, Howard Gunn, who was able to ring the gong today at the General Hospital in the chemotherapy suite because he has now successfully completed his treatment. So thank you very, very much. I have brought some material that I can leave. It's explaining lots of details. And we do have an information session coming up on April the 12th. If you'd like to come out, it's open to the public. So thank you again, and have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you, Gary, and thank you, Sandra. Very well done and well stated. Members of council, are there any questions or comments to the presenter, please? Thank you, council. Once again, thank you.
Thank you
appreciate your time this evening.
My pleasure.
Members, I'm just going to roll along with the presentation, or the delegations here, and then I'll go on the presentations afterward. Our next delegation, we have Ms. Nancy Selvage and Jane Nye, Rosemary Armstrong, and Lisa Bowers-Young, Tracy Terren, members of the Fair Trade Committee of the City of Port Colborne regarding the progress update as a fair trade town here in our wonderful community. Ladies, welcome. It's great to have you out this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Badaway and members of council. Good evening to you all. We are going to introduce ourselves first. My name is Jane Nye.
Rosemary Armstrong. Tracy Terren. Lisa Bowers. Nancy Salvage.
And your member on our committee is Barbara Butters. Last week on CBC's hit show Dragon's Den, Arlene Dickinson interviewed and assessed for investment Canadian-owned fair trade company La Siembra, known as Camino by their chocolate products. Camino made a bad business decision that put them in trouble financially. They appealed to Arlene for $400,000. The big decision Arlene made was to invest in this company, noting that Camino is an organization with heart and compassion and has the potential to grow into a really great ethical Canadian business. We love stories like this. We are happy to be here with you tonight to update you on the happenings of our fair trade town. Essentially, fair trade is about justice. Fair trade is about looking more closely at where our food comes from, where our things are made, and understanding the consequences that our purchasing has on people in the global south. It's a trading partnership based on transparency and respect that seeks greater equity in international trade. It contributes to sustainable development by offering better trading conditions to and securing the rights of marginalized producers and workers. Fair trade is more than just trading. It proves that greater justice in the world is possible. It highlights the need for change in the rules and practice of conventional trade. Called alternative trade or business unusual, fair trade is people motivated. 3 years ago, in April, Port Colborne was designated as Ontario's first fair trade town and third in Canada. Since then, Canada has 15 fair trade towns and 22 in the middle of their campaign, one of them being our national capital. The goals that we had to fulfill briefly are, one, we had to have your political support. We needed local council to use fair trade products and support us with a council member on our committee. 2, availability of products in town. Stores and restaurants needed to serve fair trade certified products. 3, we had to have community support and continue to need that in our workplaces, faith groups, and schools who use and promote fair trade. 4 is public education. So public awareness events were needed and media coverage held on fair trade and the campaign. 5, a Fair Trade Town Committee, and that's who we are. The steering group exists for continued commitment. And 6 is keep the momentum going. Other ethical and sustainable initiatives need to be promoted within the community. We are proud to be here tonight to remind you of our town's distinction. This is not a static designation, but one we continually have to enlarge upon.
Forgot the glasses. The idea of the Fair Trade Town was born in England in 1999, when an Oxfam group in the town of Garstang wanted to promote fair trade as a part of a community effort. There are now more than 630 fair trade towns in 18 countries. My part of this group here this evening is to show growth. I think that's a lot of growth. You can find us now on the transfair.ca website. Port Colborne is listed as one of the fair trade towns. There's also a map spot that you'll find that the products that are available in Port Colborne listed as well. You'll find all the information about becoming a fair trade town and what it's all about. On our own city website, you'll find the listing of the fair trade partners in Port Colborne. When we started this initiative, it was fairly easy. We had 16 partners. It didn't take a lot of work. We were already interested in fair trade in Port Colborne when we began. Our partners now listed on the city website: Port Colborne City Hall, the Chamber of Commerce, 10,000 Villages, Smoking Buddha, Canal Side, the Hub Cafe and Cinema, St. James and St. Brendan Anglican, San Marcos, the Healthy Cupboard, Port Cares Reach Out Center, Food Basics Grocery, Matheson's Drugstore, Port High, Lakeshore Catholic High School, and Bethel United Church were all our initial supporters. Since then, we've added another 18 for a total of 34 supporters in town. Market Cafe, No Frills Grocery, Tallwood Bed and Breakfast, Steel Street School, Wainfleet Brethren in Christ, Port Colborne Baptist Church, Bridges Community Health Center, Port of Grace Church, St. Patrick's Catholic Church, Harmony on West, McKay School, 270 West, First Lutheran Church, Mac's Convenience Store, Candy Safari, Port Colborne Lioness, and Sobeys. And that shows a lot of growth in Port Colborne. So way to go. On our 3rd year anniversary, come out and join us in Market Square, May 12th, World Fair Trade Day. Thank you.
One of the things that we are committed to do as a fair trade town is to educate our citizens. And I'm going to be talking about the things that we have done as a committee to continue that. We had several movie nights at the Hub where we showed movies about the chocolate and sugar industries. Stacy Taves from Level Ground Coffee Company visited us, and he spoke to many high school students and to students from Niagara College business programs. He also was a speaker at an information night that we hosted that was broadcast on COGECO. We have held yearly celebrations at our local market for World Fair Trade Day, and this year will be no exception. We'll be doing that again. And at this event, we serve fair trade coffee and brownies, and we usually have one or more of the local high school bands participating. We held a fair trade breakfast. Many of our committee members have made presentations to local church and community groups, and the most recent of which was at the Lioness Group, and they in turn decided to serve fair trade products at their meetings. This past December, we actually entered a float in the Santa Claus Parade, just to bring fair trade make it more visible in the town. In addition, we purchased a flag and a large banner noting Port Colborne as Ontario's first fair trade town. The banner has been mounted on the Clarence Street Bridge for each of the past 2 summers throughout Canal Days and the month of August. This promotes dialogue with many visitors and helps to encourage our own citizens.
As a committee, our obligation is to ensure that Port Colborne doesn't just meet, but surpasses the basic requirements of being a fair trade town. One of the ways we do this is by planning events to highlight the Fair Trade Initiative, and we would like to let you know what's coming up in our future. On Wednesday, April 11th, the Fair Trade Town Committee will be hosting a Fair Trade clothing sale. This event will take place at the Guild Hall in the upper room of the Hub from 5 to 7 p.m. The show will feature clothing from the Azadi Project collection, created by Farah Ali and Fiza Mir. These women work with talented artisans from Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Uzbekistan to create high-quality, handcrafted products while also empowering them by offering fair prices and wider market access. This free event is open to the public and promises to be a fun and colorful time. Port Colborne will join with 17 other countries and over 600 fair trade cities in celebrating World Fair Trade Day on Saturday, May 12th. Our committee plans to be at market on May 11th for what has become an annual event. There will be music, fair trade coffee and treats, as well as lots of fair trade information. As always, the community is welcome to come to 10,000 Villages on May 12th for World Fair Trade Day celebrations. Part of our mandate as a fair trade town is also to support and promote shopping local. New to our city in the last couple of weeks is a great addition to this. The Niagara Local Food Cooperative is an innovative marketing and distribution system for local farmers, which has been operating for 4 years, but up until now, members in our area needed to pick up their orders in Fonthill or Thorold. Our committee has made arrangements for a new drop-off here in Port at 10,000 Villages. Being a member of this co-op allows you to order vegetables, fruit, meat, as well as specialty items like soaps, maple syrup products, and specialty cheeses from local producers online for delivery every 2 weeks during the winter and spring, and every week during the summer and fall. All the details of our upcoming events will now be submitted for posting on the city website through the community bulletin board. Thank you.
Thank you. As the Port Colborne Fair Trade Town Committee, we are honored and pleased tonight to take this opportunity to celebrate the many achievements that City Council and our commitment partners have made possible over these last 3 years. We thank all of those who have been receptive to and responsive to the fair trade message. Specifically, the committee appreciates Port Colborne City Council's continued commitment to using fair trade certified products in City Hall, as without this support, our status would be jeopardized. We also invite City Council to help us in continuing to bring the language and practice of fair trade into the lives of the residents of Port Colborne. New initiatives are not easily undertaken or accepted, but we believe that it is in challenge that positive growth can occur. Fair trade has been and continues to be an immense opportunity for all of us as individuals, as a community, and in terms of economic growth and education. Tonight we are asking you to recommit and reconnect with the Fair Trade Town Initiative as you had the courage to do 3 years ago, and as we are always attempting to do ourselves as a steering committee. We look forward to joining with City Council in the continuing growth of the fair trade message and the message of justice and equality that we believe fair trade represents. At this time, we would like to open the floor to any questions or comments that you may have in regards to fair trade.
Well, thank you, ladies. Very well done. Very well done.
Thank you.
Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Butters.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When this came forward 3 years ago, I think it was a bit of a struggle for some people to embrace this. The work that's been done in the last 3 years is nothing short of phenomenal by this group of people. Been embraced by schools, the faith community, so many more businesses. It truly is impressive. So I'm going to recommend that we do recommit to this city being fair trade, and good work. I'm just so impressed by you all. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butters. Further questions or comments? Ladies, is there an actual motion or a proclamation that you have that's standard that can allow this council to actually recommit to what we committed to 3 years ago?
We should find out about that. We were thinking a special handshake.
Do you want to get in a circle here and sort of do a dance? How about at the next meeting we'll drop a proclamation, and that'll recommit the community to what we've committed to 3 years ago, and we'll get I'm sure Ashley and I can get pretty creative on that proclamation. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, ladies. Great job, guys. Great job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Nancy, don't go anywhere. Where'd you go? You're up next. I'll give you a chance to put that shirt on. Members of council, our next delegation is Nancy Salvage, chairperson of the Fresh Air Fund of Port Colborne, and this is with respect to the Fresh Air Fund of Port Colborne program. I was going to say earlier, Nancy, that it's nice to see you with hair. You have the hair back. Me too, I know, yes. Yes, are we going to be at it this year again? We're there. I'm going to challenge members of council again. Yes. This time maybe I'll get Steele up there. I'll be shaving his head this time around instead of him.
I'll be back.
I'm sure you will be.
I'll be back here.
Nancy,
yes.
as always, welcome back. And
thank you very much.
Look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Mayor Badaway, members of City Council, staff, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about the Fresh Air Fund. The Fresh Air Fund is an independent, not-for-profit agency that has provided free summer vacations to more than 1.7 million New York City children from low-income communities since 1877. Its history explains the name. In 1877, tuberculosis was running rampant in New York City, affecting, of course, children living in overcrowded tenements. A minister from rural Pennsylvania asked his congregation to provide country vacations by becoming volunteer host families for these children, as fresh air was considered the cure for all respiratory ailments at that time. In the 136 years since its simple gesture of human kindness, the Fresh Air Fund has grown with families in 13 states in the United States Northeast and the Niagara region in Canada, opening their homes to these children. For the past several decades, Port Colborne has been part of this wonderful program, becoming a friendly town, that is, a participant in the Fresh Air program for several decades. Here's how it works today. First, I want to tell you about the kids. Children from low-income families in New York City can apply to this program through more than 90 social service and community organizations. These children are 6 to 12 years old on their first visit to a friendly town and will stay for 1 or 2 weeks. 65% of all children will be reinvited by their host families year after year and can continue with the program through age 18. These are very brave children supported by family members who see the value in allowing their kids to leave the inner city and experience a different sort of life. Recently, I had the pleasure of listening to a Fresh Air child, now in his 20s, speak about the Fresh Air program. He said that his experience as a Fresh Air child showed him that he had choices in life. That's just one of the benefits of this program. Now I'd like to tell you about the volunteer host families these children visit. There is no typical host family. They're married couples with or without kids, single-parent families, grandparents, and single people. But what they all have in common is a desire to share their homes with inner city youngsters for 1 or 2 weeks every summer. Each friendly town is supervised by a committee of volunteer leaders who interview prospective host families, visiting their homes and checking personal references. The application process helps to match up families with children appropriately according to gender, age, and likes and dislikes. There are no financial requirements for hosting a Fresh Air child, and host families are not paid. They are inviting their New York child to be a part of their life during their stay, enjoying day-to-day life. As a Fresh Air host mother for the last 5 years, I can tell you that the most fun and satisfying times we have shared are things like walking the dogs, going to the beach, getting ice cream, and just being outside. For most of these kids, playing outside is not a safe option at home. As I mentioned, Port Colborne has been involved in the Fresh Air Fund for a long time. Last year, 16 children visited Port Colborne homes for 1 or 2 week visits during July and August. The success of this program depends heavily on support from the community, and as well as informing you about what the Fresh Air Fund is, my message today is not directed just at those who might consider becoming host families. There are other ways to help give these kids a wonderful Port Colborne experience. Businesses and organizations that can offer these kids and their host families free admission or reduced rates for activities they might enjoy, or underwrite expenses, help make us truly a friendly town. We are so grateful to the Lions Club, who give us the use of their community hall every year for the arrival and departure of these kids who travel to and from New York by bus. So whether you want to know more about becoming a host family, or you have the ability to help us give these children an even better Port Colborne experience, now is the time to be thinking about it. I love answering questions about this program and welcome people to contact me. For more information about the program or to access community information, people can visit the website at freshair.org. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nancy. As always, well done.
Thank you.
Members of council, any questions or comments? With none, I can just add a few comments, Nancy, because I've had not only the pleasure but the privilege to meet some of these young folks that come in here from New York City. Many of them that have come in, just seeing the smile on their face and just having the opportunity to sort of get out of the city and realize that there's a lot more than what they grow up in terms of being in the city. And of course the environment sometimes being challenging, most times being challenging, to have the opportunity to come out and literally get that breath of fresh air within a community like the city of Port Colborne and throughout the region of Niagara is a real blessing for these youngsters to take full advantage of. We as residents of our community sometimes take it for granted on some of the things that we live with on a daily basis. I see some of our members from my youth council here this evening, and you know, even you guys, imagine being in New York City, living in the Bronx or living in Harlem, compared to where you live now. And to be able to have that opportunity for some of those youngsters to come in here and be your friend and take advantage of some of the services that you enjoy every day is a real pleasure for these folks to do. So, as Nancy had mentioned, to all you folks throughout the community, by all means, when you have that opportunity to meet one of the youngsters that come into Port Colborne out of New York City, really welcome them with that Port Colborne spirit, because it makes it really special for them. I know we had one youngster that was here. I think the last time I seen him was last year, and he's here every year. And I tell you, it's just gratifying to see the huge ear-to-ear smile on his face when he walks up into my office and gives me a big hug, and because I haven't seen him in a year. And also as the families, as all the families out there that open their homes to these youngsters, a great deal of credit goes to them as well. So Nancy, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you
for your time with the Fresh Air Fund, and to all those people that make it happen for these youngsters. Great job. Great work.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One of you folks that made a presentation, do you guys happen to pick up some people?
Was a piece of paper, I think, one of the, yeah. One of the ladies may have picked it up. This lady right there, I think she may have. Hartman was speaking.
Thank you. I think I had most of it memorized, but not all of it. When you look at the pleasure that I have as the mayor of the city, on some occasions, as always, it's bittersweet to recognize people that are retiring. But I have to say, this person is not retiring. Okay, thank God, because she's put a lot of time into the city of Port Colborne, and this is simply a recognition of the valuable time that she's put to our community for so many years. It's my pleasure on your behalf, those members in the gallery, equally as important as those members watching on COGECO, to be here tonight on your behalf to recognize and honor an individual that has given us 25 continuous years of service here in the city of Port Colborne. And on top of that, 9 years before that as a volunteer, part-time, I shouldn't say a volunteer, worked part-time, and before that put a 6-month stint in here in the city of Port Colborne. So quite a long time here in our community to give to you, the residents, her services. Who am I speaking about? It's Miss Margaret Cook, who has for the past 25 plus years blessed us with her time over at the Port Colborne Public Library. So I do want to call Margaret up here. And I'm going to tell you a bit about Margaret. As much as Margaret has 25 continuous years of service, as I said earlier, come on up here, Margaret, and I won't bite you. She was originally hired on a 6-month grant in 1974, then worked part-time for 9 years while she raised her sons until she was hired full-time in 1987. In her years working for the Port Colborne Public Library, Margaret has lived through the dramatic changes brought about by computer technology in the world today. When Margaret started working at the library, there were no computers. For the most part, high-tech meant 16mm film and a vinyl record collection. Margaret typed cards for the card catalog on an electric typewriter and interfiled the cards in alphabetical and Dewey Decimal order in banks and banks of drawers, and I'm sure all of you guys can relate to that because I remember as a youngster going to the library and trying to find that book through all those drawers. At the circulation desk, Margaret hand-stamped the date due cards that she placed in the pocket of each and every book at the library. The job consisted of tedious hours of filing, as I'm sure you can well imagine. In 1985, the Port Colborne Public Library was one of the first libraries here in the region of Niagara to automate. Today, the card catalog is online, and the film and vinyl records are long gone. I think they're in the basement somewhere. We still go down there listening to them once in a while, don't we? In their place are DVDs, online databases, downloadable ebooks, and barcodes. In the library of 2012, Margaret helps people to navigate cyberspace on banks of public computers. She uses the internet to answer reference questions, and she orders library materials online. In the past 5 years, Margaret has shared her creative side by running craft programs for the children here in our community, especially during the holiday seasons. After so many changes over the years, Margaret continues to serve the library and her community with a friendly smile and a commitment to her job, which we all enjoy each and every time we walk into that facility. It is my pleasure to present Margaret this evening with a plaque and a watch, a token of our appreciation from everyone throughout the city of Port Colborne, not only members of council and staff, but more importantly, the folks that we all represent, you represent, those citizens of the city of Port Colborne. But before I do that, I am going to ask Janice Salmon, our Vice Chair of the Library Board, to come on up and make a presentation to you, and then I'll follow that with my presentation. Janice?
On behalf of the Library Board, we want to thank you for your dedication and your years of service. Thank you so much.
It always kind of seems too small when we just give you a plaque and a watch, you know, because I know how much you do over there, but council and Bob won't let me give you any more than that.
What'd you say?
An all expense paid trip to.
He said a new car.
Is that what he said? A new car? But Margaret, it's my pleasure to present with you, to honor you with these tokens of our appreciation. And we have a plaque here that is presented to Margaret Cook in recognition of 25 plus years of dedicated service to the citizens of the city of Port Colborne. We say congratulations and thank you for everything that you've given us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
As well, we have a watch here for you. There you go.
Thank you.
Get your hands full.
Thank you.
You guys want a picture? Okay. Janice, why don't you come on up here? Jennifer, is Jennifer there? Come on up. Jennifer, come on up here. for all you folks that are frequenting our library, she is not retiring. She'll be there with that great smile every day for hopefully many years to come. So once again, Margaret, great work, and we look forward to many more days. Thank you. Members of Council, and we're now going to move on to Councillors' items, no business. Councillor Desmarais.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, through you to staff, through our budget deliberations, somehow we managed to move all the work that was to be done on the East Village Park into the CIP for the east side. Well, that means none of the work that was expected to be done this year will happen, and the community was relying on that happening this year as promised to them in years before. So we were left with some problems because we know that the money is hard to find. I went to the East Village Action Committee meeting, and it was decided at that meeting that there was sufficient funds. The committee will be able to write the check for the removal of 2 berms in the park, the 2 interior berms, and Ron Hansen and I have spoken about this. But what we would need is for the city to please try to find a way to pay for the hydro seeding after those berms are removed. So if we could work together, we could get this done, and it's one less thing that the CIP will have to fund later.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Hansen, you have any comments on that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Desmarais and I have looked at the area there and tried to determine what amount of work was required this year. I think the community group there has done a great job in coming together and putting some funding forward, which we didn't make available at budget time. The hydro seeding, I can't put a price on that yet. It's going to be determined by the amount of damage once the berms are taken out, what the reinstatements are, but we can take a look at that once the construction's underway. We've also assisted Councillor Desmarais in finding a couple of sites within the village where we can put some of this material that's coming out for the berms. There's a couple low-lying areas there that are flooding, and we have some areas where we can put the fill in. So we're going to work with the councillor to get that done in the next few weeks.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hansen. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Hansen. I just want to make sure, because there are committee members here tonight, they're hoping for a positive answer to that. I just want to make sure that we can go forward, and it is safe for us to undertake the writing of the check to remove the berms, knowing that the hydro seed can follow right away. And then we can also let the French Golden Age Club know that it's okay to go ahead with their events. There's a lot of events that are dependent on this happening, so we could certainly get it done. But mostly I would like to thank Mr. Hansen, because if it weren't for him coming to the plate and working with us through this, we may not have come up with a solution. So it was really great of him to taking the time out to do this, and the community really appreciates it, and hopefully we can come to an agreement on all of this now.
Thank you, Councillor, and you raise a valid point, because not all the time does the public actually see the people that actually make it happen. They see our mugs in the paper and our comments, but with a great team behind us, it really allows us to get the job done. So, Ron, to you and your staff, thank you. Well done. Councillor Doucette, you want to comment on that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The only comment I have is that the committee, EVAC committee, has worked hard and is starting to want to create positive change in the community. This is the beginning of that, and Mr. Hansen worked very hard, and so did Councillor Desmarais, to make sure this would happen. And it is critical that this happen as soon as we can get the shovel in the ground. I'm not sure how the process is going to be, but as quickly as everyone can get their act together, the faster the better, simply because there are activities that are coming up in the spring that are meant to happen in that park, and we need that grass as soon as possible. And I thank the staff as well for finding a solution to this, because the solution was necessary, and they worked hard, and all I can say is thank you, and let's get to it.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments on that issue? For those members that are in the gallery, I see a few back there in the back there that have been working extremely hard. Guys, great job. Thank you. You guys have really enabled this whole project to get off the ground. And like I said to you during the first two meetings, you know, this council and this staff, the community is very committed to ensure that this community improvement plan gets off the ground, and at the end of the day, really transforms and revitalizes that part of the community. It's, as I said before, it's overdue. It's well needed, and you guys are earning it by being involved in everything that you're doing. So great job, and let's keep running, because hopefully 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road, we're going to see another quality jewel of the city of Port Colborne, especially along that waterfront. Mr. Howell, one question I had for you with respect to the waterfront, how we making out with some of the discussions we're having with Transport Canada?
Your Worship, the Manager of Special Projects and Engineering has been in conversation with the Director of Planning, and there's been correspondence back and forth to the Seaway. He intends to bring a report to Council, I believe, at the last meeting in April in respect to the potential transfer.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Howell. Mr. Aquilina, with respect to design and costing, and what's the timing on that in terms of when Council is going to receive some of the concepts, and of course the prices and costs attached to those concepts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Council is aware, we have the community improvement plan completed. We need to now work forward to bring something back to Council so the costing can be put in place. If we're going to do the detailed design, we got to write a report to Council and ask the question of Council, what do you want to have done next? As Mr. Howell had mentioned, there is a potential acquisition, so that's all going to be rolled into the report that's going to come back to Council for consideration.
So we're looking in terms of timing, what are we looking at?
Springtime, Mr. Mayor.
Springtime? A few weeks?
Month or two.
Month or two, okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aquilina, thank you, Mr. Howell. So, guys, keep her going. We're getting there, okay? And Councillor Desmarais, as well as Councillor Doucette, well done. Good job, guys. Members of Council, for their new business, I think I had Councillor Elliott next, and then I had Councillor Steele, and then Councillor Dench.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Ron, we had a conversation. There was the article in the paper about the city clock. I know you had some information that maybe you wanted to share with regards to the condition that the clock is in. I know that there's been some concern through the BIA, downtown BIA, that they'd like to see it stay if possible. I don't know if the removal of it is immediate, but if you could speak to that.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was able to put together a summary, knowing this was coming forward, on the condition of the clock. The city electrician was working with a local electrician to take the mechanism out of the clock in October of last year. I put together a summary and some photographs that I can share with tonight of the actual condition of the clock. I think there was a little bit of a misconception initially when the project, it was determined that maybe just the mechanism of the clock was at fault or was faulty with the clock's operation, but there's much more to it, and I'll try to illustrate that just briefly here. If you can go to photo 287, that's the first photo, shows the heavy deterioration of the steel column that supports the clock from the sidewalk. It's prevalent throughout the pole to a greater or lesser degree, right up to the top from the sidewalk. 288 represents the need for painting of the whole structure. You can see the rust and the rust pitting throughout the steel all the way through both the cover of the clock and the base of it. 289 shows the condition of the base, which is out of square and is in fact, that's the one there, it's actually sinking down into the sidewalk. So we have a bit of a base failure there, and again the steel's in very poor condition and is pitted, so that requires restoration as well. Photo 290, we illustrate all the Lexicon panels, the plastic panels that are on the face of the clock. These are all quite yellow and deteriorated and would need to be replaced with any restoration of the clock itself. 296, I think we have a photo here, and this is actually the gentleman that took the mechanism with a bucket truck, took the mechanism out of the clock. You can see how dangerous this is. In order to work on this clock, we'd actually have to work on it in place, we have to build scaffolding around the clock, or actually take the clock down and take it away for restoration. This illustrates the problem. Just some additional comments. The mechanism is out and is stored at the yard. It's been out since October 2011. As I said, the clock can't be repaired with a ladder, but a scaffolding would have to be put around. And since it's such a busy intersection, that would be quite a task in itself. The clock mechanism itself hasn't been assessed for repairs. We have repaired it in past years, and past history indicates that the clock drive motor has probably failed again, as it did in the past. A new shroud for the clock mechanism, which has been taken over with a tray, will need to be fabricated. It's completely rusted out as well. Repairs were put on hold until the determination of the fate of the clock tower, whether it could be rehabilitated, and the cost of the repairs to the tower, including welding, painting, replacement of lexicon windows, and upgrading the electrical wire. It's very corroded and should be assessed for overall structural, to see if it's overall structurally sound. Given the significant area that is attached to the top of the tower, we're concerned with wind loading on it, given the condition of the tower itself. The cabinet at the base of the tower is tilting and is out of square. The overall appearance of the clock, including the tower, the clock cabinet, window panes, and base of the cabinet, have deteriorated over the years. It's about 30 years old. It's badly in need of corrosion repairs and painting. Additionally, the electrical wiring should be upgraded to include a disconnect switch at the base of the clock, and the internal electrical wiring should be evaluated as to the need for replacement. It's in pretty poor condition, all the wiring itself. The underground electrical supply actually goes to one of the local buildings there, which used to be City Hall, and it appears that the BX wiring, which may have been used, is not ESA approved to current standards. There's also a significant safety issue in the removal, as we illustrated in the one photo, in working on the clock itself. So what we've illustrated here is there's more issues to address in the clock mechanism itself for repairs. It's our opinion that the structure has outlived its usefulness in terms of the deterioration of the structure itself, and it should possibly be replaced. We've also provided in this estimates for four-sided clocks from a Canadian supplier. If we can bring those up, there's 4 models that we show, and those models vary in price from about $14,800 to about $20,500, and that would be for a new clock. Just 4 samples of the type of clock that's available. This is a Canadian manufacturer, so we're suggesting that the price between $14,800 and $25,000 might be an economical alternative. Since we're considering the CIP downtown, it's a perfect opportunity to take this clock down. If there's money available or volunteers, whatever the direction of council might be, the old clock could be refurbished to a certain degree, but we're uncertain right now what that cost would be. Or a better consideration, or another consideration for council, would be replacement of one of these new models, 4-way clocks during the CIP process.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Well stated. Councillor?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess my main concern was that because the clock was purchased and donated to the city as a memorial, we have contacted the family, if there's any family members left in town. I would hate to see us take something down that has significant value to a family because of the memorial issue to it. I guess the greater concern is the clock's only 30 years old, and there's been no maintenance done to it. I mean, you take a look at some clocks, you go downtown Niagara Lake, their clock is probably a lot older than 30 years. We haven't done any maintenance to it, and that to me seems to be a problem. If we're going to go forward and buy a new one, somehow we've got to get a schedule of maintenance on things that we own. It seems like there's a lot of things falling apart that we haven't really maintained. Right? Yeah. So is there any way we can have anybody, is it feasible to repair it, or is it just completely gone? We'll take it down and set it aside and look for a new one at CIP time. Or is there any way that we can partner? And we threw this out there with the article that was in the paper, and we had some response. If there's anybody in the city that would care to tackle this and give us an estimate on repair, rehabilitation. I know one school is looking to partner with the city in some projects. Maybe they would like to have a look at it as a repair and rehabilitation project. I just hate to see it go. I know a lot of people are kind of attached to it, and sure it would be nice to have the right time at the corner of King and Clarence.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Hanson, if you can address the 3 questions. One is what was the annual maintenance program? Secondly, if the family's been notified. And lastly, what the repair costs may be. You mentioned earlier that you don't know that yet, but if we can look at a timing in terms of getting that back to us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The family hasn't been notified to my knowledge unless somebody else, one of the other departments has. The maintenance program is simply maintenance as required, like many of the things we maintain, whether it be the work shed, the Centennial Pool or whatever. It's maintenance as required, that we don't have an ongoing maintenance program for something like this. Certainly the mechanism itself, it's been repaired many times in the past. We could send that out again. I understand some volunteers have come forward that would like to look at the mechanism and have that assessed for repairs, whether some of the brass gears and so on that you see in the structure can be replaced. We don't know that yet. We don't know if they're available for off-the-shelf type purchases. So certainly the mechanism, that would be one possibility, but that doesn't address the issue of the structure itself. Possibly we can get somebody to come forward, and it's a cost issue as well. We could have somebody take a look at it. I think any refurbishment of it, because of its position where it is and the need to possibly sandblast or whatever else has to be done to the steel to bring it back to life, it couldn't be done in place. It has to be taken down. So all those things could be investigated. And I guess we're looking for direction from council tonight. If council sees fit to go forward that way, we need some direction on that.
Thank you. Councillor?
Instead of having a report come from you, I think we've got some people that we can contact. Also, I think I could probably get in contact with a couple of people to see if they would give us an estimate. So instead of having a report done, I think if we could just we could work together and just see if we can get a cost on it.
Well, essentially, something has to come back to council to give council the opportunity to make a decision. I think, again, we're looking at a cost of repair versus a cost to replace, as well as I think the family should be notified, if at all possible, either through you, Ron, or even I can do it through my office, contact the family, as well as putting together an annual maintenance program for things like this, whether it be this existing clock or whether it be a new clock in the future. Because as Councillor Elliott correctly identified, I'm sure there's a lot older clocks around the nation that's available, but obviously has a maintenance program attached to it. So I think we should look at that as well. So with that, members of council, Mr. Heil.
Your Worship, this is a major contribution by a family 30 years ago. There's a plaque there that has to be preserved for sure. We have other entities throughout the city that want to make donations. And council has, for example, in the Health and Wellness Center, established a time frame of 10 years for major donations. Valley, for example, is donating $1,250,000 and has a 10-year time limit. I'm certainly not going to suggest that it's going to be forever, nor should it be something that's relatively short. However, Your Worship, these kinds of things come up, and all of a sudden now the taxpayers, in the management of the resources that we have, the limited resources, it needs maintenance, and I would like permission from council to bring back a policy that talks about, for your consideration, that talks about donations of kind or facility for a period of time, especially commemorative, where in this case, this is 30 years at this point, and the plaque will never ever disappear. It will always be a part of Port Colborne history. This clock at some point is going to fall down. I don't know how long, but I would like to bring to council for your consideration a policy which suggests a reasonable amount of time for a naming or a dedication of some asset to the municipality, so that at the end of that period of time there may be some opportunity for the family or the donor to reaffirm, as much as we did tonight with fair trade, to reaffirm a commitment and perhaps supply additional funds or make another donation of equivalent value so that the city constantly has these kinds of assets renewed. And I'm asking permission from council to bring a policy that would do something on that line, at least for you to consider.
Thank you. Members of council, if I may, I'll take direction if you differ. Did you have a phone call? But if we can have, Ron, something come back to council with the repair cost, as well as I said, to contact the family. They might have some thoughts about this as well. And of course, a maintenance program, and obviously the option to go new. I know I've been approached by 2 or 3 individuals as well that want to take a crack at it. I'm sure you, members of council may have. I know, Bob, you have to as well. So if we can get all this together and hopefully have something back to council in the short term, and we can make a decision. Peter, I know there might be a possibility of some surpluses this year, especially because of Mother Nature and the way she's treated, yeah, in terms of the way she treated us this past winter. So there might be some opportunity to look at that as well. So I agree sooner than later, but we also have a community improvement plan that we're going to be embarking on too. So taking all into consideration, I think if a report can come back to council and we can make a decision. Okay, members of council, you're fine with that? Ron, any comments? Any comments? That's fine. Peter, any comments? Good? Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor, that's it? That's good. I have Councillor Steele, I believe. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. A couple things here. Port Colborne Minor Hockey is proud of 2 teams, or we're proud of all our teams, by the way, but of 2 specific teams. Over this past weekend, our Port Colborne Golden Puck Novice are the Ontario Novice B champions. They beat Lambeth in a 6-point series, 6 points to nothing. So that brings us, that's the 3rd year in a row that team has been to the finals. They've been bridesmaids twice, and now they've finally grasped the golden ring. So we're very proud of those guys, and they're 6- and 7-year-olds. And Coach Coors and his crew did a great job. They actually had an undefeated season from their Niagara District regular season and their playoffs, and so far they have 1 more game this week. If they win against Fort Erie on Wednesday, they'll become the Niagara District novice champions, and that culminates actually single A, double B, B, C, all the way down. So that's for the Niagara Districts. They only 2 losses they had was one to Fort Erie in a tournament in the round robin. They beat them for the championship, and then they lost in the Silver Stick championship in Pelham when they jumped up 2 divisions to single A. They lost to a team from just outside of London. The name escapes me right now, and it might have been Dorchester, I think it was, and that game they were in it till the end, but Dorchester is a pretty strong team. The second team is the defending Ontario Bantam B champions, our Port Colborne Scotiabank Sailors, and they were the finalists this year. They fell a little short in a 6-point series, 6 points to 1 to Listowel. The first game they lost at home on a couple Fridays ago. They came home and tied on a Saturday, or lost at home, went up to Listowel. We tied 4-4. Came home this past Saturday to a great crowd, and they fell short 3-2 and then lost 6-1 yesterday. So unfortunately they couldn't repeat, but you know, they got there, and they had a decent season. It wasn't quite as good as their last year's season, but it's almost an entirely new team of boys with a few returnees, and again, we were proud of them. And so, Your Worship, I know you'll be speaking with myself and Coach Coors to bring our novices out to recognize them, and you know, we're pretty proud of them. So we've also got a number of local league teams that are just finishing up their playoffs, and I'll bring that news forward once they I know we had a couple go to the finals of their divisions, so I'll again report to council on that. So again, Port Colborne Minor Hockey is very strong, and we're doing very well across the province. And just another note, only because I know they did it, there was a girls basketball team from Port Colborne Port Colborne Minor Basketball won the OBAs this weekend, I believe, up in Kitchener.
Yes, we got some championship teams. We can't forget about the Pirates either. The Junior B Pirates last night beat Niagara Falls, one of the top teams in the Junior B Loop, to now end up in the finals against the city of St. Catharines. Yes, Diodati will be wearing a Port Colborne Pirates shirt at Regional Council meeting, and yes, I'll be enjoying that. But of course, I think the big news right now is the Falcons. They're the big team right now in the Loop, and hopefully we can do the same to them that we did to Niagara Falls. So to all those Bees out there, best of luck to you. For the new business, Councillor Danch.
Thank you. I guess the first one's to Ron there. Kevin Thomas over on Sheba Crescent was wondering if possibly like a child playing sign or slow down due to the fact that he feels there's a lot of young children in the area and they're out and about and all around. So he wondered if maybe we could do a little look-see in that area between the 27 and 30 address numbers there. Just wondered if possibly you could look into that in your spare time.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's appropriate we could put that type of sign up with the large park that's surrounded by Sheba Crescent, so we'll certainly take a look at that.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Councillor?
And just one other item, I think this one's for Peter, just because it's been such a great looking spring, and a couple boaters kind of put me up against the wall there, and they want their freaking docks in. And I think with the way weather's been going, we should get that marina guy down there and get that main run in, and we could get some more boaters, because I know we see them all in town, and it's a great year coming our way, and we should try to keep these boaters happy.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Howe, you want to comment on that? Mr. Sinez?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just chomping at the bit, aren't you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's been a great 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks anyway, although today got quite cold. But we are, the marina is right now under maintenance. Actually, the nice spring weather has been able to get us out there and our staff out there a lot sooner than in past years. So with regard to maintenance, we're about 3 weeks ahead of the schedule, and they're working on the docks right now. There's some repairs that are being done on them, and then they'll be put into position. And April 15th is the official date to be open and should be ready to go.
Thank you, Mr. Sinez. Is that fine? Thank you, Councillor Danch. Further new business? Councillors Adams. Members? With none, we'll now move on to staff responses. Any updates, guys? We're good? You guys are good. Okay, now we'll move on to adoption of the minutes. I do have the set of minutes of the 7th meeting regular of Committee of the Whole, dated March 12, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. We'll now move on to the items considering separate discussion. First item, Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the Drummond report only speaks of the expenses incurred by the province of Ontario, and whereas the revenue side of all expenses should be looked upon when deciding cuts to any programs, and whereas many cuts indicated by the Drummond report will affect some of the most vulnerable citizens in our communities, now therefore the Council of the City of Port Colborne resolve as follows: that the City of Port Colborne requests the provincial government to initiate a public consultation process regarding the recommendations of the Drummond report that includes the revenue side of the province of Ontario budget, and that this motion be shared with all communities within Ontario, the Premier of Ontario, Cindy Forrester, MPP, the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Dwight Duncan, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Desmarais? What's that look for, Councillor? Councillor Desmarais seconds that. Any questions or comments? Councillor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The Seniors Advisory Committee asked me to bring this up. And the reason for that is that the Drummond report is something that the provincial government put together that would look at how to cut spending. The only concern is that a lot of the spending that was indicated only talked about the expenses, did not talk about the revenue. And the Seniors Advisory Committee, as well as other groups, are now working to try to get the government to have some kind of a consultation with the public at large that indicates not only the expense, but also revenues. Okay? And they are asking that we send this out to the government to indicate that, and that we would like them to at least look at the fact that maybe they should have a public consultation and look at both sides of the equation, revenues as well as expenses.
Further questions or comments about the resolution? Councillor Demeray, any comments as a seconder? None? With no further comments, members? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 2. Councillor Steele.
I was actually due set, but I'll bring it up.
What's that? I'm sorry. You know,
It is a
you know
councillor
what?
dissent,
It is.
yep.
I have you both
Yep.
actually circled here. My circle was too big. Councillor Dissett, go ahead. In all fairness, I know how hard you worked on this. So, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you very much. The Department of Community and Corporate Services report number 2012-9, subject construction of skateboard BMX park at Lockgate Park be approved, recommending that the Council of the City of Port Colborne approve Design 3, 1,079 square meter skateboard BMX park designed by the members of MIAC in consultation with Land Inc. for a total cost of $700,000, which includes design, contract administration, and construction.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to this, please? Councillor Steele. Questions or comments? Councillor Dissett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I am proud of MIAC. I am proud of the group that worked with Land Inc. They have come up with 3 designs. One of the better designs is the one that they talk about, the Design 3. It looks like a ship. It fits perfectly in the park if you look at the designs. And listen carefully. We have, I believe, do we not have Land Inc. here to give us a presentation on that?
Thank you, Councillor. Actually, I was going to ask you that just now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Councillor. I was pointing at Gary, trying to get him up here.
Yeah, we knew what we were doing.
He's looking behind him going, no, you. Thanks, Gary. Welcome.
Thank you, Port Colborne. It's been a pleasure to work with the local youth committee and staff on this. We have I think what is a fantastic design, if you can see on the monitors. It's based, and I'll just talk very briefly about this. I'm not making a formal presentation, but the idea is that we're trying to emulate the Laker, the red ship, and in this case the green bridge in the design. So if you can visualize those two elements. That's a 3D of the skate park. So if you can visualize the red being the Laker passing underneath the drawbridge, the green element. If you can see the bridge there, who's doing that? Oh, hi. it's like my mind is doing it.
So up there.
Yeah, it is. So just to look at some of the elements at the front. There's a compass element that's raised that the skateboard and BMX guys can do their thing with. The prow of the boat, you can visualize that. A little further back, a lifeboat sort of thing. Different skate park elements. Then the bridge that goes across with another area, and then the back, if you could follow the whole image of the ship, and the back being the back of the boat with the railing. The stern, yes, exactly. So we're quite excited about the design. This is the full build out at approximately $700,000. There are some provisional items. If you see the blue wave track that comes off, that may be something that we have to do with provisional funding, depending on what happens with the tender and so on. But it fits well in the park. It's at the south end of Lock 8. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to ask. Maybe we could switch on to the next few views, if there's any. That's now looking from the canal side, kind of to the south. Some of the details. This design has been worked in conjunction with the local skaters and BMX riders. It's been great input from them. To put this into perspective, Fort Erie down the road is little over 700 square meters. This is 1,000. The cost of their construction was about 650,000. That's in plan view. So it's roughly parallel to the ships in the canal, and I think it'll look fantastic from the street.
Thank you, Dennis.
Is that good?
Members of council, any questions or comments? Councillor Doucette, Councillor Bodner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have to thank Land Inc. What you're looking at is a unique design that will allow the youth to do whatever they want within their abilities of skateboarding and BMXing. And those are the two things that are going to be critical for them. They got together with Land Inc. and designed this, and what you see there is what came out of it. I'm being told that there are a lot of other children in a lot of other communities right now that are just waiting for this to be built. That's what I'm being told. Therefore, it is the faster we are on an aggressive schedule. Essentially, we hired Land Inc. in December. We are hoping this will be finished and done with by September at the latest, is what they're looking at. I would hope maybe we could follow the same thing as our Health and Wellness Center. Maybe we could be opened earlier, like maybe August. I hope so anyway. But that's the design that came out of it, and it's an extremely unique design that allows both skateboarding and BMXing, and that's what's critical here.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions or comments? I have Councillor Bodner, then Demaray, then Kenny, and then Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great design. It looks fabulous. And I guess what I've always been worried about when we chose Lock 8 Park was, are we trying to squeeze something in that's too big for the park? And I just heard you say that it, certainly looking at that, it looks like it'll fit. I just wonder your comments about, I was looking at the schematic on page 30, and the one side is, what, 4 meters from the edge of the bike path. What's the elevation of this? Is it quite raised to get up to, or is it sunk down in?
Yeah, as you know, Port Colborne is quite flat. We do have constraints in terms of the bedrock that's only about 1 meter below grade in this particular location. So the out of necessity for drainage, we are having to perch the park above grade to a certain extent, but not very much. It would be roughly 1.2 meters or 4 feet above grade, the berming around it. That would be the impact, which is fairly conventional practice in skate park design.
Councillor?
Is that okay?
Okay. Councillor Demery?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, through you to Land Inc. I just want to say this is an amazing design. It looks amazing. I love how it fits the space. I've always envisioned something that would come down into the point of that park, and this truly does. It speaks to all of what Port Colborne is, which is a great thing as well. I do understand that part of the reason that the costs are a little higher than we had originally thought we were going to look at has to do with the fact that your upgraded materials, that sort of thing, deal with the shaking in the from the lock, that sort of thing, and the raised areas because of the drainage issues in the park as well. But I think that they've been dealt with very nicely. I still think this is good value, really good value, and I believe that we would be making a large mistake to go with the lesser plans. I think that we should be going with the one on page 29, this one exactly, because we know what happens when you have to come to the plans 5 or 10 years later and try to add something because you realize you really did need it. It's always a mistake, and we've been dealing with that in this council a couple of times already. So if we build the whole thing, build it right, it's always a good idea. And I just think this is a great design. I can't wait to see the kids out using it. I think that they've done an amazing job getting together. Yeah, it's not just the kids. There's some adults that are wishing to have this done, Gina. Yes. But I just can't wait to see everybody out there using it. And I think that we'll do a great thing for Port Colborne by building this one.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess this is the Cadillac, I guess, of all the designs when you look at that. And when I was looking at, tell me the difference then between this one, except for that, I guess you would call it the bow of the ship, Is it any different? The other one that is listed in here, I guess, would be B on our, for the 600,000. Is that the only difference between this design with the tail that comes out, or the bow of the ship that comes out, from the other design?
Sure. The designs are actually a progression. So design 1 is the north end, and then there's a middle, which is design 2, and then the full build out is what you see here, which is design 3. So it is all inclusive the way that you see it.
Yeah. Councilor?
Yes, I just that it showed us the pricing, and so you're telling me that there was no pricing given for the 600,000.
Yes, that 600 represents designs 1 and 2,
okay.
A and B.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, just to answer Councillor Bogner's question, one of the requests in terms of the site selection was that the skate park be as far south into the park as possible, and so that's how we've tried to massage it to bring it down into that wedge as much as possible, and I think it has fit fairly well.
Thank you. Councillor Steele.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to MIAC, congratulations. It's been a long haul. We had another company up here about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, with the skateboarders and the BMXers doing modeling and everything. And a lot of their thoughts have gone into this as far as what they foresaw as with water and boats and bridges and what is very unique to Port Colborne. The one thing I do love about this is the fact that it is unique compared to everything else in Niagara, as well as all across Ontario. It's amazing how the people that use the BMX and the skateboard parks travel. I've had families call me when we originally started this a number of years back, stating that they'll go up to the Ottawa area, to the Peterborough area, and small towns in between that have the parks like this. And it's amazing how many people come on a weekend to a small town to events or just to use their parks. Because it's nice to have your own, but you do like to go out and use other people's different skateboard or BMX park. So not only will Niagara kids and adults rotate throughout Niagara using the different facilities like they do now, Port Colborne will assure, I'm positive that there's going to be events that's going to draw tourism within Port Colborne on special occasions, but on a day-to-day basis, you're going to bring in those day trippers that come in just to use our facility here and use everything else that's around Port Colborne, whether it be restaurants, stores, or whatever it may be. Yeah, maybe not gas stations, but depends on the price of gas. So we won't. That's a different concept. It was cheaper this weekend. Yeah, oh, there you are. Still too high. Anyways, it is unique, and I love the design. I will support this, and it is about time. We've been talking about this way too long, and I'll echo what my two fellow councillors have said from Ward 2.
Thank you, Councillor Steele. Any further comments or questions, members? Councillor Elliott.
One really good comment I'd like to make is that it's got a compass in the bow. So I'd sure like to have that compass being used instead of the compass in our downtown. I'd sure like to see MIAC through, if you want to call it peer pressure, when we build this, lean on those kids that are using downtown compass and get them to this, because there's been a lot of people downtown complaining about the skateboard and bikers on the compass. If we build it, they will go. And I say that with all sincerity because I'm tired of getting phone calls and emails from people downtown. Yeah, when we sat at our strat plan meeting when we first formed council, this was the very last thing that we talked about to make sure that we got it built. So I'm hoping if you build it, they will go. So get a move on.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments, members? Mr. Makins.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to take the opportunity also to thank the staff that have worked on this, Gina and the MIAC and the Port Colborne skaters and bikers have worked really, really hard. Ron's staff has been great. I've worked with Jim and Steph, and they've been really supportive in helping us out. And Land Inc. has been a great company to work with. They really understand what the skaters are talking about. You know, I sat in a meeting there, and it was all foreign to me because I have no idea what the kicker and stuff is. But anyways, I knew they knew what they were talking about, and the youth is really, really excited about this. It is something that Council's mentioned is unique to Niagara, and it will draw people here. It is, to build it like this is really going to be something phenomenal. It really fits in great, I think, at Lockgate Park, where that nautical theme is just carried right throughout the entire park now, and I think everybody's really excited to do it, and we're looking forward to it for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Makins. Councillor Doucette.
Just a last comment from me. By the way, just so that everyone realizes, Seaway has given us permission. We now have a letter in hand that tells us we can put it there. Now, I don't know if anyone knows how long it takes sometimes to get something out of an organization like that size, but we have a letter that says, yes, you can build, which is excellent.
Great, thank you, Councillor Doucette. Any further questions or comments? Well, I see at least one Seaway employee back there in the corner. Mr. Al Peterson, and I'm sure, Al, you're going to be on that skateboard park every night, aren't you? Just a few words, guys. I know you want to move on, but I have to say, because I've seen this sort of grow and evolve and mature since the mid-90s, 1997, 98. You guys have been working on this, and believe me, there was a whole bunch before you that were part of the Youth Council that worked on this, and I'm not sure if they're still skateboarding, but if they are, they're going to welcome this project. If not, maybe their kids will. But there's been a lot of people involved. Front and center, first and foremost, is the Youth Council. And I think each and every one of you guys from the Youth Council recognizes today that your efforts haven't gone in vain, that in fact it did mean something, you mean something, and when you put your nose to the grindstone and your head to it, that in fact you can get those things done. As I said to you over and over and over in the past, and I still say this day, you folks are just as important and valuable in this community as the olders and the elders are. And I think you guys have proved that, and you guys earned this. You've earned the respect. You've earned this capital project because of what you guys were successful at accomplishing here. To staff, I know Gary, you've worked extremely hard. I see Gina Murdoch back there. Gina, I know you've worked extremely hard. Don't hide, Gina. I can see you. And of course, I see Jim back there, Jim Huppelman from operations. You guys have really worked well with the Youth Council and vice versa. The Niagara Regional Police. I see Sergeant Weeks back there. Sergeant Weeks, to you and to your team too as well from the Niagara Regional Police. I know you've worked with this and have been very supportive, and I thank you personally as well as your team for being a part of this process, and as well to the community. I know there's been some concerns with respect to the location, but I think it's the perfect location. For the most part, the youth went through a rigorous process of, in fact, choosing different locations, and they came upon this location. I think personally it's the most appropriate. It's the most central. It joins itself to Niagara's Century Trail, one of the only Century Trails in Canada, which is our multi-use trail. So when people are going around the entire region enjoying the multi-use trail on the Welland Canal as well as the Niagara River, they're also going to bump into a few skateboard parks on the way, which they can, I'm sure, have a lot of fun at, and hopefully not end up at our local hospital, because I know I would if I was on that thing. But so don't even try it, guys. It ain't gonna happen. But lastly, I want to say it also reflects what this community is all about. Often people look at the city of Port Colborne as being only a retirement community. That's 23% of our community, which is retired, yes, but we have another component of our community, which is our youth. And I think as we mature as a community and a lot of the investments that we're making, I think it's proving day after day that there's a lot more to Port Colborne than just retirees. We have our youth, we have our middle-aged, like myself, here in Port Colborne as well. But some of the capital investments that we're making, we're seeing on tonight's agenda, this being one of them, truly reflects the personality and the character of the city of Port Colborne. And you guys are a part of that. I congratulate you for that. Job well done. So with that, members of council, with no further questions or comments, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried unanimously. Great job, guys. Well done. We'll now move on to item 3. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Department of Community and Corporate Services, Community Services Division, report number 2012-11, subject 21st Annual 444 International Walleye Tournament be approved, recommending that Council supports the request from the 444 tournament that the City of Port Colborne provide a corporate sponsorship and partnership to cover the infrastructure cost, approximately $3,500 in 2011, of hosting this event at H.H. Knoll Park, and that the park permit fee be waived and free recreational vehicle camping be permitted at H.H. Knoll Park starting at noon on Thursday, June 21st, 2012, that the City Council provides a letter of non-objection to the 444 tournament's application for a special occasions permit.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar. Do we have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Steele. Questions or comments? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly I'd just like to say that I'm fully supportive of this. It turned out to be a much enhanced event last year, and I would imagine they're bumping it up again this year. And the dates for that, because I don't see it in here, is June 21st, or 22nd, 23rd, 24th. I'm looking at the group back there. That's true. Okay. Just as a plug. How about something else? Remind me how we're funding this. I know it says I guess through you to the treasurer. You know, I don't believe we talked about this at budget time. And
that's part of budget. Mr. Sinez.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, the infrastructure costs are funded through the additional revenue that comes through the marina with all the transient boaters and the boaters that do come for the tournament, over and above the normal capacity that we do have, and we bring in the revenues for that would cover these costs, and that's what happened last year.
Thank you, Mr. Sinez. Councillor?
Okay, so it's a break even. Just so somebody doesn't misjudge that we got a bunch of money here and come on down and ask for a corporate sponsorship, and, you know, well, that's what it sounds like, you know. So I just thought, you know, certainly, and like I say, I totally support it, and wish them good luck and good weather. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments, members? Guys, you guys want to add anything to this? Al, you got 2 minutes on COGECO. Come on. Members, as Councillor Bodnar so eloquently alluded to, yes, this is a great thing, and I'll throw the plug in for you as well. For those watching on COGECO, by all means, I'm sure there's a lot of spots still open for the 444. Get a hold of the Port Colborne Conservation Club. Give me a phone number, guys.
What's that?
To get into the 444.
Our website.
Website.
You can register online, Vance. We use something new this year.
What is it? What's the website?
www.pcdcc.
Okay, so www.pcdc.com. Port Colborne Conservation District Club. Gotcha. So for those folks that want to register online, go to that website, Port Colborne Conservation Club, www, and you will be able to sign up online. Okay? Just Google Port Colborne Conservation Club. And you're there, right, guys? So by all means, how many did you have out last year, guys?
96 boats.
And how many looking for this year?
And we're expecting between 125 and 150.
And the prize money is?
$10,000.
$10,000 to the winner. For biggest fish. Awesome. Good. So you guys want to make a buck? Come on out and join us with the walleye fishing over on Lake Erie. Doesn't matter what the weather is, eh, guys? No. Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, I know they are. Members of council, no further questions or comments. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. I know these, by the way, guys, I have to congratulate you and thank you. I know you guys have done some boat shows over in the stateside as well as here in Toronto. I know you're promoting the 444, but you're also promoting the city of Port Colborne, so job well done. We really appreciate that. Great job, guys. So with that, members of council, we're now going to move on to item 4. We have Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. That Department of Community and Corporate Services Community Service Division Report number 2012-12, subject, Principles for Memorandum of Understanding for Partnership and Contractual Arrangements for Programming between the City of Port, I'm going to say the City of Port Colborne, and the YMCA of Niagara be approved, recommending that the Mayor and Clerk are hereby authorized and directed to execute a memorandum of agreement with the YMCA of Niagara for programming of the warm side of the Valley Health and Wellness Center in accordance with the terms and conditions as identified and recommended in Community and Corporate Services Community Services Report 2012-12, and as proposed by the YMCA of Niagara in its proposal submission, subject to the review of the City Solicitor.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Do I have a seconder to this, please? Councillor Steele. Questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I raise this because I'm sure that the other councillors may have some comments to make too. I know that the YMCA representatives are here. We went through this public meeting. We had an open house last Wednesday where we had a couple of hundred people, I would say, conservatively. Their comments that were written down are contained in the package that we have. A lot of positive comments. I know there's been negative comments. I even had today, I had a couple of comments directed towards this, negative in nature. And they were asking me what my thoughts were and how I was going to approach it. I had somebody approach me yesterday and ask me some comments as well. I guess for me personally, I'll support it, and I'll say why. I think it's the best option for the people in Port Colborne. I think that with the arena 3/4 of the way finished, I think as programming goes, we need to have full use of the facility. The Y gives us that. I think as a non-profit, as an all-inclusive, and all-inclusive I mean all-inclusive for members of the community that don't discriminate against anybody, that welcome people in. Part of the comments we've heard has been cost. The Y, from what we've been hearing and talking to, aren't afraid to meet with people, to have them included in membership that cannot afford it or think that they can't afford it. They meet in private. They make allowances for their financial situations. They stand there with open arms and embrace everybody and want everybody to come and be a part of their situation. It's been difficult to listen to both sides of the discussion. I think moving forward, what the Y brings as a brand to the City of Port Colborne, I think it's a great thing for us to have, for them to come and partner with us. And I'm just looking forward to what they have to offer. And I'm just hoping that everybody takes advantage of the amenities that they bring with them.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Further comments or questions? Councillor Doucette, Kenny, Desmarais.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. One of the things I want to emphasize is that we just finished having MIAC here, and MIAC indicated that we were putting this skateboard BMX park up, and they're very happy about it. We're also doing the wakeboard thing, and they sent an email in support of the YMCA as well. I sit on both the senior group and the MIAC, both ends, okay? A lot of the seniors have indicated to me that they would not like necessarily to have the Y do it. Some of them do, but some of them are upset at certain aspects of it. I will tell you this, that I think it's important that everyone understand that MIAC itself is also looking at this and saying it is the right way to go. And maybe we should take a serious look at the fact that MIAC is saying this in the email they sent out had 8 points. Number 7 said, Port Colborne is becoming a place where we feel we are now part of a community and means something, which we hope takes away from the negative labeling and lack of input we have felt in the past. And last but not least, they are saying this, finally feeling that Port Colborne is not a retirement community. MIAC themselves put this out. Although I'm part of the group, I was not part of the group that put this together, and I received this morning, and I was happy, but at the same time surprised at the fact that they reacted this way. But this is what being part of a community is. Everyone has a chance, and MIAC itself and the youth of Park Colborne are saying it's the right way to go. I think it's important that everyone understand that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny?
Thank you, Your Worship. As Councillor Elliott said, I was torn for a while about how I was going to support this. And really, prior to the open house, I had nothing but negative comments, phone calls and emails. After the open house, which gave the public a chance to speak to individuals who were there from the Y, I had nothing but positive comments. And before you knew it, the positive comments were outweighing the negative comments. I still was not convinced that was the way I was going to go. So myself, along with some other councillors, went down to the McBain Centre in Niagara Falls, and we had a look. And we looked at all the amenities that the Y had to offer and would be offering to our community. And they're absolutely fantastic. Brian, thank you very much for the tour. And one of the things, and perhaps you could just come to the podium if council would allow him to come. One of the things that I still was very, very torn about was the fact that there was no way that we could incorporate some kind of fee for individuals who just wanted to use the therapeutic end of the pool. And Brian told us that there was a group that came to the McBain Centre, and there was a special consideration given to those individuals so that they could take advantage of that therapeutic pool. And perhaps, like I said, Brian, if you could just come and maybe explain that so that it's people that are listening may have an idea of what that is.
Brian, if you want to come on up.
I was still, council would mind.
Excuse me, Councillor.
Yeah.
Councilor's fine with that?
Okay.
Okay.
Just before,
Go ahead, Councillor.
I was still torn because I have a friend who's out, whose business, Gina and Fitness, is going to be affected by the fitness end. Saw that area at the McBain Centre, fantastic. And all I can say, Gino, is your monthly fees are less, you have longer business hours, and hopefully the loyalty of your present users will remain, because that's what your business is based on. And no one can fault Gino for not being a community-minded individual. He even gave staff members of this corporation a deal on their membership so they could be fit and well. So you can't fault him for that. But in the end, I have to weigh all the facts and everything that will benefit all the members of the community. Really, I am still leaning towards the Y, but I'd like Brian to comment, please. Thank you.
Brian, come on up. Welcome. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, my name is Brian Brad. I'm a general manager with the YMCA of Niagara. It's very important to us at the YMCA that this center be used all the time by the community, that it essentially serves as a hub for the community, that we can enable us to serve people of all ages and all abilities. When we look at partnering with other agencies, and the example that you pointed out was the McBain Community Center, and that is a partnership with the City of Niagara Falls. And similar to this partnership, we realize that it's an initiative that we simply can't do alone. That is through the partnership with both the city and the Y that we're able to serve the community more effectively and in much deeper ways. There are certain things that are important to the Y as a brand, and there are certain things important to the city, and that working together, we can address those concerns. So specifically in Niagara Falls, there was a group that wanted access that was associated with the city. And as a result, we made special provision to grant that access. That is something that in this case we're certainly open to. And in the documents we have worked with the city staff to outline the creation of an operational work group, a committee essentially, that takes a look at making sure that certain groups, third-party groups, and others in Port Colborne get access to the YMCA. So it will look a little bit different in this center as it does in perhaps some of our other YMCA centers, as it should, because the programming that we offer in this center must reflect the community and the community's needs, and that's something that we acknowledge, and we look forward to working with staff and council on this initiative.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Desmarais, then Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This issue has really torn me apart because I've heard a lot from both sides. And as with Councillor Kenny, the positive side I've only heard from in the last week. But up until the last week, I heard nothing but negative, which I did as best as I could to make sure that I shared that with the rest of the councillors so that we had that out there. I still have 3 major areas of concern with this. Firstly, being the seniors, I just feel that we can better serve the seniors' needs with a swim-only seniors rate. I just believe that we could do that if there was a will to do it. For staff, I don't believe that a guaranteed interview is enough. I think there should be a guaranteed position available. It's just the way I believe that we should be protecting our staff. And as far as the local competition, I believe that unfortunately, with something as great as what the Y will be able to deliver, and we all know that is great, it's amazing what can be delivered, that has the same effect on the fitness sector in town as Walmart and the big box stores has had on our main streets. It's going to make competition very, very difficult, and it will probably mean that most will not survive. That's difficult. That's upsetting to see that, and I just hope that because these. By passing this today, we're saying that we want the Y, which I am going to support. I'm hoping that we still, in our deliberations and putting together the contract that will exist, that we can still work out some of these things and maybe bring some of the people delivering currently delivering the various fitness mediums to the people of Port Colborne, bring some of them in and be able to work with them and see to the seniors' needs better and look at staff differently. These are things that are still able to be done, and the Y, you have the ability to do this. It's the right thing. It's fairness. That's what this is, and that's what I'm asking for, is that we do this with fairness. But I will support it because the overwhelming majority of people have said they want it. And in looking at the Y can bring, I can't see why we wouldn't do it, except these 3 areas, and there's huge sticking points for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too have done a bit of tossing and turning on this. I was really quite grateful to the community that came out at the public meeting last Wednesday. This place was packed. Had a lot of good conversation, good comments from children of all ages. One person stating they wouldn't darken the door of the place, and to the other extreme of extreme supportive of the Y coming in. So a lot of good positive comment though. Then I got the opportunity to go to the McBain Center to see for myself how that is. Beautiful facility, clean as a whistle, very impressive in every way. Elderly folks, not so much, little ones having a really great time. And it was nice to see all those kinds of ages of people represented at that place. So that was a good experience as well. And I want to thank Brian for giving us a good tour and answering every single question that was asked of him. I'm encouraged that we can work with therapeutic pool use kind of people. That encourages me because that was a big concern to me. People that have either arthritis issues, fibromyalgia, that can only really utilize that part of a facility. I'm encouraged that we can work with them and create a system for them. I agree with Councillor Desmarais that there's still there's a segment of seniors that I want to make sure get accommodated in, and maybe that's a swim only for a time. I want to see those folks worked with. That's important to me, as well as as well as our present people who work at the pool, that their utmost consideration is given to them for jobs at this new one. And when I come to Gino's business, I really I still don't have my head wrapped around that real well. And the only thing I can think of, and I don't know if it can be of some help, but when I think of the city as a whole, we have an economic development person, and one of the jobs that they are tasked with is to retain business in this city. So would it be possible for the Stephen Thompson and company to assist Gino in this, what will be a very difficult, maybe transformation time, to see how he can be assisted? And I don't know if he even wants that assistance, but it comes to my mind that there may be things that would be helpful in that area. It's a transformation time for everyone. So having said all those things, I will support this. I want to see those issues, though, be resolved as we go along, and I want to see this business get whatever help from our economic development office as possible, and through this transition time, and see what can be done to be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butters. Mr. Howell, if you wanted to comment on the Economic Development Office.
Your Worship, there may be other uses, not just the fitness. There may be other ones. Now, we had spoken about, and again, we're out with an RFP right now looking for programming for all the other side. Part of our initial vision in putting together the RFPs for all of the programming options and opportunities was to find ways to try to use what's here, as well as add to it. Not just simply create new, but take what there is, and there may be some opportunities, and we'll speak to Mr. Thompson about what might be available, not just for G&M, but for all the other uses that are similar, to try to find ways so that if we're programming, we're using them, that service is also supported by the municipality in one form or the other.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. Any further questions or comments, members of council? With none, I will call the vote. Anything, staff, you want to add? You're fine? I will call the vote. Your pleasure, members. All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 6. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. That Department of Planning and Development report number 2012-17, subject, intention to designate the former Louis J. Scicluna garage located at 293 King Street under the Ontario Heritage Act be approved, recommending 1, that the Council of the City of Port Colborne approve the processing of the former Louis J. Scicluna garage, known municipally as 293 King Street, for heritage designation pursuant to the provisions of Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act, RSO 1990, Chapter 0.18. 2, that the clerk is hereby authorized and directed to give notice of Council's intention to designate the property at 293 King Street to be of cultural heritage value of interest in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Kenny? Councillor, you wanted to second that? Okay. First off, I have Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. I lift this so Mr. Aquilina can give us a little presentation.
Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Elliott. As Council is aware, this has been brought forward once again. It was deferred at the February 27th meeting, and again at the March 16th meeting. It's my understanding there was a presentation by Mr. O'Hara as to the potential designation of this property. We recently received a response from the solicitors on the property, the owner's solicitor, asking that the matter be deferred once again so he can present as a delegate to council for your consideration, and he's asking that this be deferred until April the 23rd.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Questions or comments further? Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have a concern with the fact that we keep deferring this. Either we do it or we don't. I don't have a problem if someone's going to show April 23rd, but I think it is important to make sure that we tell this individual that April 23rd there will be a decision made if we delay it that long. Okay, and I'm not sure whether we should or not. I'm just saying we should be there, and we should. There has to be something done, or we don't bring it back. This has been deferred 3 times, going on the 4th, I believe. So, you know.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elliott.
I'll echo the statements of Councillor Doucette. I don't know what the rest of the council feels about it, but I would be under the assumption that when the proponent comes to council, that the decision will be made that night, and that no further deferrals would be allowed. That's my personal opinion. This has been, I think this is the 3rd deferral. It's time to make a decision on it.
Thank you. I have Councillor Bodnar, Demaray, and Danch. Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Talk about deferrals. I was on that committee, and Councillor Butters, were you not on that when back in, no, but yeah, way back when it was LACAC and we had dealt with this. That's where that report comes from. And I can't remember exactly why we didn't go ahead, but I can remember a few things that certainly the owner didn't want to do it at that time. And I think a number of us felt that, and we were trying to figure out how the museum could buy it. The museum was interested in it at that time. So, you know, I got a question here I'd like also to ask. On page 39, just down by the bottom, it says, Council should be aware that agreeing to proceed with the processing of the property for designation does not ensure that the property will be designated, but allows staff to initiate the process, which includes an opportunity for objections to be filed. I guess objections. Now, I would imagine objections from the owner. And when I say that, I'm thinking there's a cost to this, that you put a load on the owner, and the owner's got to come up with the money to say, I don't want it. Am I wrong? How does this work?
Mr. Aquilina.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council Bodnar, what council is doing is just, with this report, is just actually beginning the process. This report doesn't say that you're designating it. There is an opportunity under the Heritage Act for any property owner or anyone in the city to share their views whether or not this should be done or not. If council then decides to designate it, an opportunity is there to try to have that designation removed. And then there's an appeal process. It goes to the Ontario Heritage Fund, which then goes back to council for consideration. So this report doesn't actually designate the property, it's just to commence the process. I think that was explained at the last meeting to you.
Okay, Councilor?
Okay, so I got mixed feelings on this because I believe we should, you know, try to preserve our heritage. And yet, I'm trying to think how I would feel as an owner being told, we're doing this to your property, and, you know, and once we start this, folks, we're on a toboggan run. This isn't, you know, like, we're going to make the final decision, right, this council? So we start it, everybody's for it. You kind of got to think that maybe everybody's going to be for it at the end, too. But, you know, I'm not saying I'm going to say yes or no. I just haven't, I know what I want to do, but anyways, it is a slippery slope, and, you know, I'll go with the deferral because I'd certainly like to hear from the owner, and, you know, maybe there's a way he can work with us on this, too.
Thank you, Councilor. No, we don't have a deferral on the table yet. Okay, I have Councilor Demaray, Danch, Butters, and then Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I remember at last council meeting making a request that we look at this council meeting as being the time that we would deal with it. Let the owner know that there will be no more deferrals because this would be the 3rd. If we were to, and here's a question for Mr. Aquilina, if we were to pass this tonight and that would initiate the process, would there still be an opportunity for the owner to step in and do his presentation on April 23rd without great costs on either side? Then we could actually stop the process if necessary.
Mr. Aquilina.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Demaray, absolutely. If council approves this report, we will then commence the process. Through that process, there was a commenting period, and anyone can show up as a council delegate and state their objections to council. Council at the end will gather all those comments, and then we'll make a decision whether or not you want to proceed with the actual designation of the property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. That's actually what I would like to recommend is that we go forward from here tonight. That allows the process to begin. That would allow any real objection from the owner to come forward without further delays, because then they know that a process has begun. We're not just thinking about it; we're doing it. So then it's a timely thing for the owner to speak up and come to council and deal with this. So we just keep getting these deferrals, and that makes no sense.
Thank you. Questions or comments further? Councillor Danch.
I spoke with the owner of the property today. He doesn't want this property designated as a heritage. It's his property. He pays the taxes. I don't know why we're even going back and forth in this.
Thank you, Councillor Danch. Councillor Butters.
I think that it's important to realize that we do have a responsibility to do the best we can to preserve certain parts of our heritage. Once they're gone, they're gone. There's no getting them back. In passing this tonight, it in no way prevents the property owner from coming to this council to voice and put forward their objections. And if those objections make sense to the majority of people, then we'll deal with that. And if they don't, we'll deal with that too. But to put this off when unfortunately this individual has a bit of a track record of ignoring doesn't set well with me, and it doesn't set well with me to put this off for 2 weeks. We don't do anything in passing this tonight that prevents that owner from any kind of due course they want to take in front of this council. It puts the onus on them actually to show up instead of on the 23rd saying, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm not ready yet either. So say let's get this show on the road and do what we're here to do.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you. My comments were similar to Councillor Butters, who sits on the Heritage Committee with me. And just for the council, it's already been designated federally. That fact alone, that Parks Canada designated this property as a National Historic Site for Canada in 1995, says something about the historical significance of this building. The owner spoke to me today as well, and he doesn't want it. And he didn't even know it had been historically, federally, and I read the part of the report to him. He doesn't care. He doesn't want it. But I agree that we're only starting the process here, councillors. It says to give notice of council's intention to designate the property. And I believe that we should go ahead with this motion and let the gentleman who owns the property come forward at our meeting in April when he wants to come and put his objections forward, and we can decide then as a council. Just remember, it's a historical site, and it's very, very important to preserve them. I guess you shouldn't have a heritage committee in your community if you're not asking that heritage committee to recognize these facts. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions or comments, members of council? Councillor Butter.
As much as I think I'd like to support designating this, just because I believe in that, I also think that we should be giving our constituents the right to come before council. Well, he's asked to defer it. Staff said they tried 3 times to get a hold of him. I think I would have walked over there and knocked on his door, maybe a phone call or whatever. I don't know. So the guy wants another, how long to do it? If we designate it, are we going to do anything with it till the next council meeting? I don't think so. Well, we're starting off the process. So before I would want to start off the process, I want to hear that gentleman standing at that podium and giving us the reasons why we shouldn't do it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. One of the other comments I have or question through you to Mr. Aquilina, whether this proponent, this individual wants this or not, does the city have to ask that individual permission to do it, or can we just do it?
Mr. Aquilina.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councilor Doucette, under the Heritage Act, even if an owner objects to the designation, council still has the right to designate the property.
Any further questions or comments, members? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Mr. Aquilina. Dan, what does the provincial designation do and not do? And what are the parameters of the designation?
If the property is designated under the Heritage Act, if the owner wants to make changes to that, it needs to go to the Heritage Committee and then back to council for your approval of an alteration to that building. Under the Heritage Act, it does not allow the owner to demolish the building. There's the beneficial side of having a designation of the property. Council has a tax program in place, and this property is part of the community improvement plan, which we are meeting with the owner's solicitor to go over those incentives. But getting back to the original question, you cannot make a substantial change without it going to the committee for their consent and ultimately council's approval of that change, and the property cannot be demolished.
But just for clarification, it's not the whole building, it's just the front of the building.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe the intent of the committee is to actually have the entire property, the building, designated. But if that's council's position that only a certain component of that building is actually worthy of designation, then that's a decision of council to make.
Okay, so I was under the impression that just the front of the building is what's designated federally, as well as the back of the building doesn't really have any relevance to any designation because I don't think it goes back that far. I could be wrong though. That's what I was told.
Mr. Mayor, I believe, and maybe the committee can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the property itself is what's asked to be designated. And that was the original intent, and what was the intent back in the late 90s.
Okay. Members of council, any further questions or comments? Councilor Butters?
I just wondered if you would want to hear anything more from Dan O'Hara, who's here. He's the chair of our committee.
Does members of council have any questions for Mr. O'Hara? Councilor Bodner?
I would like to, Dan, you're sure on the designation for the whole? That's an interesting, I can't remember back when we originally
Mr. O'Hara?
did it.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to Councillor Bodner. And Dan can correct me if I'm wrong here. The designation, when it's designated, is on the property itself, so it gets registered on title. With regards to the heritage attributes of the building, what we did in our committee, we looked back at the previous report. It seemed to be fairly inclusive. I guess one of the things that are listed in there might be some of the interior features. Obviously, not being in the building, it's kind of hard to tell. Most of the other properties that are designated in Port Colborne, the bulk of them are just the exterior style and features of the building. I would suspect the same would be the case here. Obviously, the internal features of the building are not extremely relevant in this case and may have already been altered over the years. The main part, as noted, federally, it is the front area with the pillars and the kind of the overhanging canopy. The intent of the committee would be, I believe, and I could go back to the committee, we have a meeting coming up in a couple of weeks, we can reconfirm, is basically the general shape, and generally speaking, that front entrance and canopy is the main feature of that building that's of relevance. Obviously, if you go and alter the back, as long as it doesn't detract from that main kind of streetscape and approach, then there would be no issues. In the past, we've had other designated property owners that severed properties, have altered properties, have added garages, have done all sorts of things well within the act that were beneficial to the property. The hope here would be the same, that if any changes were proposed, that they would just be in keeping with the style of the current building.
Thank you. Councilor?
Does your committee meet before our next council meeting?
Mr. O'Hara?
I believe it's in 2 weeks, the third or second Tuesday of or second Wednesday of the month we usually meet, so it would be close to that. I guess if you're to pass this tonight and the property owner objects, there is that review process. It would go to a committee similar to our local committee. They would look at the merits of the property. They would make a recommendation back to this council, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's this council that decides whether they proceed after that point. So the whole decision rests with you. There's no other governing body. There will be other review opinions with regards to the property, but ultimately it rests with City Council as to whether to designate and what aspects of the property to designate.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara.
Sure.
Councillor?
Can I continue? I just think that maybe does the owner know this, that it just could be the front that's designated? We just heard that he didn't even know that it was designated federally. You know, is that true? I don't know. But so if because he owns property on the, I don't know if he owns on both sides, but certainly on the other side, if he decided to, for lack of a better word, demolish both buildings and build some new building and was able to keep that whole facade, I guess that's called facadism, at least it was in the old days anyways, but you know, that may put a different slant on his thinking of it, you know, that all he has to do is incorporate that whole front into some new design. You know, it still doesn't limit him from doing maybe another building. So, you know, again, I'd still like to hear from the owner just to see whether that would change his mind.
Mr. O'Hara?
I guess all that I would add, and most of the council have already addressed it, this is the third request now to defer this report. We've made ample opportunities in the past to try to contact the property owner who's not returned calls, not returned letters. Going back, I don't know what the original outcome was with the first report when it went to council. Based on the file, it just seemed to kind of went dead. So I know the rules back then were a lot different than they are now with regards to designation. For those of you that were involved with the Rose Lawn designation, that was kind of a property owner that not wishing to designate as well. But the rules have certainly changed since then, and the process is it's straightforward and simple. To be quite frank, I'm a little surprised that it's taken a solicitor this long to come up with a response to the designation. I think it's pretty straightforward with regards to what the Act says and how it's interpreted.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hara. Any further questions or comments, members? To the motion? Your pleasure, Councillor Bodner. There's been no deferral put on the table. No further questions or comments? To the motion, members of council, your pleasure. All those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 11. Councillor Kenny. I'm sorry, item 10, Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Department of Engineering and Operations Engineering Division Report Number 2012-12, subject request from a local group of Great Lakes surfers for permission to rejuvenate the beach grass on the unopened road allowance on Pleasant Beach Road be approved, recommending that Council of the City of Port Colborne allow Mr. Holmes and his group to complete the rejuvenation of beach grasses along the sides of the unopened road allowance on Pleasant Beach Road once a copy of their liability insurance is provided to the city.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a second to that, please? Councillor Butters. Questions or comments? Councillor Bodner.
Thank you very much. I had asked that this go back and staff filled in a few blanks, I guess, on the on what is going to be done. And it seems a very just gentle thing. Why not put some grass along the side and everything? I guess what I'm worried about is this is a place, we have very few public beaches that the public can go to, free, by the way. And this has been used, well, a lot longer than I've been around, as a public beach. I still have this fear that we're going to start out with strips of grass along each side. The grass is going to migrate in. It's going to get a little farther out on the beach. And then someone is going to be saying, you can't go on the grass. I don't know. I just, maybe I'm crazy, but I just have this fear of something down the years, another council sitting here trying to protect the area, and now we have a thin little strip of sand where people can actually enjoy that beach. I know that isn't the intention. I don't know how to ingrain that into this agreement. I'm not totally against them planting grass there. I sure think the kids are going to have fun running through it, and hopefully it can grow. But, you know, this is an active area. And, you know, while there's some good things to planting this grass, I don't know how we can, for lack of a better word, enshrine something that this will still remain a wide beach area for the people to enjoy. So I guess that was a rant rather than a question, but so I'll put it in a question. How can we make that happen, Mr. Hanson?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Hanson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bodner raised a couple of concerns that we had when we first received this correspondence. Staff had the opportunity to talk to the MPCA about the any designation, future designation, because of beach grass being in existence there, and they had no concerns with this particular type of vegetation. We also had concerns with we have some operations that occur on these roll-outs. We move sand from the north end of the sanded area, the roll-outs, and move it back to the beach. And this is done on a routine basis to keep the private roads open. Some of the driveways in this area have to be kept open from the sand that migrates off the roll-outs. So we've satisfied ourselves that with these concerns that these are very narrow strips along each side. This will still remain open for our operations, as well as primarily for the use of the public to down the road lawns and use it as a beach. And I'm sure that this group of surfers also want that use available to them because they use it as well. So I think that we've satisfied ourselves in talking to the group and to the MPCA that we can control this, and we don't have any other concerns with it. And certainly it's not an agreement. This looks to be a one-shot deal, and we'll see what comes of it this year if it goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Further questions or comments, members? Just one question, Ron. Was this there before at one time? A lot of this grass over in that area?
Mr. Mayor, there is beach grass there already.
There's now, but was there more at one time?
I can't speak to that. I think because of the traffic on the beaches in the summer, probably not. Mm-hmm. It's probably moved. We run the backhoe up and down there, and with the foot traffic that goes through there all through the summer months, it wouldn't survive anything within there. But certainly there's traces of this beach grass along both sides of the road allowance now and in the dune itself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanson. Mr. Holmes?
Yes, I'd like to...
Yeah, if you want to come on up and make a couple comments, you're more than welcome.
Sure.
Members of council, you're fine with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, you're okay with that? Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, just to answer, thank you for the opportunity to discuss this with you guys. Just to answer your question, Mr. Mayor, the beach grass is present on the property and was present to more of an extent, but heavy foot traffic makes it die off. So the intent here is to plant more beach grass, and beach grass is the classic. It's pretty much the only species that can hold and stabilize sand dunes. It's the same species which is the classic picture of a sand fence, a snow fence, and the grasses in Cape Cod or in New Jersey or something. It's the same species. In fact, it only grows on the ocean, on the Atlantic coast. It grows from Newfoundland down to North Carolina. As well, it grows inland on the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are pretty much the only inland location, as well as Lake Champlain in New York. So it's a significant species. It's unique that it grows on the Great Lakes in addition to the ocean. But the function of this grass is it's a rigid grass, and it works just like a snow fence. As the grass blades rise up above the sand, the wind will blow, wind-laden sand will blow over, hit the grass, and fall. And that's what creates the dunes, stabilizes the dunes, and allows them not to shift and migrate. So in respect to the regular maintenance that has to be done to keep some of those laneways open, the beach grass would actually hold and stabilize the sand better. And that's the intent for the beach grass planting, to help stabilize and maintain the dunes over the long run. And the dune grass doesn't actually grow onto the beach itself. The beach is free of vegetation for the most part because of wave run-up, storms, and other things. And the beach grass only can survive at the toe of the dune slope growing upward. So it's limited in its extent, and it will actually help to stabilize the sand dunes. And as well, there'll be plenty of room to move for pedestrians to cross by or for any service or maintenance to happen. So that's the main intent. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
Possibility of putting up a sign.
Yeah.
I also asked if we could display a sign telling people about how sensitive the dunes are and walking on them, and how that destroys the vegetation. I got a sample of a sign I'd like to put up, so I can show you.
Okay, that's fine. If you want to give that to Mr. He's gone, Mr. Makins. I guess Mr. Hanson. Okay. Well, you can give that to Mr.
I submitted it to the engineer, and there was a comment made about the sand always having to be taken from, say, the parking lot where the barrier is back. If you look at the zoning maps, the view over Pleasant Beach, you can see that the sand is coming in from the southwest direction, from Shirkston. You can see that there's a blowout caused from people walking on the dune.
Mm-hmm.
And with this prevailing southwest winds that we usually get here, it blows it straight across and into the parking lot and into the driveway of this fella here, who owns the house at the end of Pleasant Beach Road. But if we in Shirkston had more grass there, it would stop the sand from going into the parking lot too. I know that's not your property. We're focusing. Yeah, we would like to propose that to Shirkston to focus on putting some more grass here to stop the sand from blowing on your property.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking at the east side dunes of your road, of your property, to help the grass grow. It's existing already there. We would like to move some around and try to make it more
dense,
full, or more denser. It's really patchy, and I think if we put a sign up saying that they're very sensitive areas and people understand the significance of having these dunes here, we could stop people from destroying the vegetation and using the lane, the right of way, which is pretty wide open for people to walk on.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Members of council, any questions or comments to the presenters? Councillor Bodner.
Just if you're here next time, for something like this, you should let us know, and then we, ask you to come up and, sorry, I didn't even realize that you guys were here.
Yeah.
And thank you for the, explanation. That's good to hear it from the person that actually is planning on doing it. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have George Holmes.
Yes.
And your name is?
Albert Garofalo.
Albert Garofalo. Okay. He's in the report as well. Great.
And
Thanks,
I think,
guys.
just as Councillor Bodner mentioned, it's a public beach, and it's I believe road allowances are about 66 feet wide, so it's a unique opportunity to take 66 feet of dune, and dunes. The actual dune part might be maybe another 60 feet wide the other way, so it's an opportunity to take a public piece of sand dune and try to rejuvenate the beach grass on it.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. Members of council, with no further questions or comments, your pleasure. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thanks, guys. We'll now move on to item 11. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Worship. That the Department of Engineering and Operations Engineering Division's report number 2012-13, subject information report, new operations center. Next steps required to complete detailed design be approved, recommending A, that the Council of the City of Port Colborne accept this information report, and B, that the Council approve the next steps in development of a detailed design for the new operations center as per the steps outlined in this report.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you once again. I just want to ask one question of the report. It's on the bottom of page 123. Ron, I wonder if you could answer the question, because it's just in regards to the site. It says the site is currently owned by the city and is large enough to accommodate the requirements of the existing operations staff and public works fleet. with room for moderate future expansion. And the word moderate kind of scared me because I don't want us to build something and then have something in another spot after. I just want to make sure that if we're going to build this building, we build it right and that there's enough room on that property that we have. Thank you.
Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We put a lot of thought into this. When the EA document was prepared, we put a lot of thought into the size of this building and how to accommodate our staff. One of the areas of concern we had a year ago was the expansion of water departments and sewer departments because of proposed legislation. In fact, we've hired a couple extra people in the last year or so related to the water license. So we put a lot of thought into this. There's really no extra offices. There won't be a vacant office anywhere in this thing. But we did make provision for the current water staff and a possible expansion of the staff in the future. If the governance operations of the region change and different things go about, such that water and sewer were to go to the region, this building will not be a large open building. There's still just enough room really to accommodate what we're doing there now. And it incorporates a lot of things we don't have in the existing building, like a proper meeting room, proper locker room, a mud room when you come in from the job, you can take off the muddy clothes, contaminated clothes, and go into the locker room in a proper condition. And that's the sort of thing that is the thought process went into this right from day one. So it's nothing beyond basically what our current needs are right now.
Councillor?
And I guess that's what scares me. You're saying it's not anything beyond what our current needs are now. So we should be thinking, if we're proactive, we should be thinking, are we going to need more room for other things? I just, like that one line in that report scared me, and I just want to make sure that we've taken all that into consideration. And you say we have or not?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is really just, we have the EA document in front of us, which, as I said, put a lot of thought into current staffing levels and moderate expansion, which would be able to accommodate a couple other water operators in the future if necessary. But this is just the start of the process. The plan now is to bring a design team on board, somewhat a smaller scale, but a similar process to the health and wellness, where we brought a project manager in, assisting us in bringing the architects on board and going through the entire design process. And in doing that, council will have the opportunity to see what this building is going to look like. The EAA is just an outline of what really is required. The architects and design team will go through and put together all the details of the facility. And as we saw in the health and wellness, there's thousands and thousands of details to go through when you put a facility even of this size up to ensure that everything is taken care of. So in bringing the architect on board, going through design, we'd anticipate probably a technical advisory committee, maybe one or two members of council, sitting on the committee with the design team to go through this and make sure everybody has all the information out there as we go forward with it. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for council and the public. We anticipate a public meeting as well partway through this process to get their input on what might be required with the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. That's fine, Councillor. Any further questions or comments? Members, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 12. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship, that the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Marketing Report number 2012-02, subject Region of Niagara Economic Update, be approved, recommending that the Economic Development, Tourism and Marketing staff obtain clarification from the region on the operational questions pertaining to the proposed new model, and that the region develops an ongoing plan to enhance the Niagara Commercial Property System and Manufacturing Service to Business database, and that the region provides funding so Port Colborne can expand its business retention and expansion program, and that the region updates and reprints the Welland Canal Corridor Tourism Brochure and the Niagara Tourism Pad Map, and that the region provides Port Colborne with the sector expert responsibilities and funding to continue to take lead on promoting Niagara as the World Congress on Industrial Bio International Conference, America Wind Energy Conference, and the Canadian Wind and Energy Conference.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a second to that, please? Councillor Desmarais? Questions or comments? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. I pulled this at your request for for our CAO to speak to. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Howe.
Your Worship, members of council will recall, and the mayor has reported on a couple of occasions, that the Regional Municipality of Niagara has embarked on a reorganization, restructuring of its economic development corporation, bringing it into the city, or into as an internal department within Regional Niagara. The corporation was at arm's length. The whole budget is $2.1 million out of a $285 million regional budget. It's a very small amount of money, but it has major impacts in respect to the development and the perceived development and the support of the industry and commercial entities within the Niagara region. So it has been extremely contentious right from the get-go when it was initially established in the early 1970s as the Niagara Regional Economic Development Corporation, now moving to what it was today. The corporation will be dissolved, if not already. It will be a department if approved by Regional Council. It's out for consultation right now. The 12 area municipalities, the CAOs, and the 5 economic development officers, St. Catharines, Welland, Port Colborne, Niagara Falls, and Fort Erie economic development departments, got together and discussed how better to make economic development in the region. There was a move afoot by the region, fostered in part and with support of Regional Council, but even Mayor Badaway was quite critical of, I don't want to speak for Mayor Badaway, but the fact was that what was there wasn't working. At least that's what was being told to regional councillors by industry and by commerce. So we embarked on, the regional council embarked on a new design, and it has been met with mixed reaction from the economic development departments of the 5 municipalities and the 7 municipalities that don't have devoted economic development officers have a different or somewhat different perspective. The goal here currently at the region is to try to make this thing work from a regional perspective. Throw out what didn't work, keep what was good, and redefine. This report here, produced by Mr. Thompson, he's away tonight in representing the municipality at another function. The report here speaks to a number of the issues. In the draft report that Regional Council will be considering over the next month and a half, the fact is right now, it is a very high-level report. You can see in this, it talks about, you know, specialists on staff and those kinds of things reporting to the CAO of the region and directly to Regional Council rather than a private little corporation somewhere. The area municipalities, the CAOs got together and designed and drafted what we believe is a description of how we see the duties being assigned, so that region itself will be a very broad economic development, marketing in respect of what this region is and what it could be, and supporting all the area municipalities. Despite the fact the 7 lower tiers don't have devoted economic development officers, they in fact do have economic development departments, either through their CAO or through their planner or through some other facet. Somebody walks in with development, they all have economic development. What we've proposed and we think will happen is that Regional Council will look at what's being proposed is that from a broad perspective, Regional Council will have its specialists and be able to support the current economic development officers as well as the municipalities who don't have assigned duties. When it gets down to business retention and expansion, the local stuff, while the region will be able to assist, it will be the responsibility of the lower tier to try to focus in on BR&E, business retention expansion. Probably one of the most important components of our economic development in the region is making sure what we've got is surviving and stays here. This report summarizes all of that, And there were a couple of other things here that Mr. Thompson in the development report asked specifically for council to consider, and that is in fact that there are some commercial databases that need to be updated, and they haven't been. That's probably a component of what's going on, and with the restructuring. They need to be updated. That's a part of it. We're looking at some assistance in BRNE, business retention and expansion. There isn't a lot of money, and the regional budget is being cut back or reduced in part of the reorganization. We see there may be some opportunities in this current model being proposed that maybe there might be some support for all 12 municipalities in respect of business retention and expansion. Also, some of the brochures, tourism, I think, Mr. Mayor, that you might want to speak to. There's been kind of a, I'm just going to say it's an interesting development between the provincially appointed regional tourism organization and what's going on at the regional council. And basically, we're supporting, at this point, the overall concept. It seems that this structure will work and that we should have some benefits of the regional structure as currently proposed, with some minor tweaking once we get a hold of a few more of the administrative details.
If I can just add a bit to that with respect to, because a lot of questions have been asked over the past 6 months with respect to the new economic development model at the regional level. And I have to say a few things about that, and I'm trying to be very careful about. One is the fact that, yes, it has been brought in-house, very similar to what we did here in Port Colborne, and for the better reason of simply accountability. To have the elected people that are supposed to be making the decisions make those decisions with respect, in this case, to economic development versus those that are appointed. And we often see that what happens, especially in terms of accountability, when we see those that get appointed versus elected. And I think we look no further than our local LIN to see the example of that. However, members of council, when we look at the local economic development roles and responsibilities, and I say local, it is a two-tier system of municipal government here in Niagara, and with that, economic development rests with both levels of government. What Mr. Howell has alluded to is the fact that business retention and expansion, BRNE, are the priority of the local level to ensure that our business and our municipalities, not just municipality, but all municipalities, are both retained as well as expanded, and every resource, as was mentioned earlier by Councillor Butters with Mr. Spada, is a priority for the municipality, and of course that's furthered within our efforts within the Economic Development Office. Leadership from the regional level would support the local levels, as Mr. Howell alluded to, of BRNE, and provide priority to regional investments in research and trending services, investment attraction, lead generation, and delivery of responsibilities for the benefit of the local and regional municipalities. Determining a service level model would be appropriate and at the discretion of each individual municipality. Some have EDOs, some don't. Those choices are up to those individual municipalities, how they would deliver those responsibilities and services with respect to BRNE at that level. They have many options: hiring EDOs, partnering with other municipalities, fee-for-service arrangements, designated the mayor or the CAO or other staff, such as the planner, to do those duties. But at the end of the day, BRNE is expected to stay at the local level. When it comes to the regional economic development roles and responsibilities, and while local municipalities are best suited to deliver business retention and expansion, because of their unique knowledge of their respective municipalities, that goes without saying. The Niagara Region Economic Development Services is ideally positioned, however, to deliver services that support economic development for the region as a whole. And that would be as a whole, WHOLE. These services include items that are more focused on regional issues, more of a regional focus, and these are best presented from a regional perspective or require more resources than are available at the local municipal level, such as research and trending services, as I mentioned earlier, advocacy, investment in traction, lead generation, and delivery of Niagara Regional Economic Development Services and those responsibilities. More of a broader picture to brand Niagara, and of course utilizing the 12 strengths, the 12 municipalities, as what that brand would look like and how it would be positioned. So that's a direction that the Regional Council to date has taken, and I have to give a lot of credit to the 12 municipalities, because I know Bob's been working very hard with the 12 CAOs. I know Stephen's been working very hard with the EDOs. I've facilitated at least 3 meetings to date with both groups, as well as working with our colleagues down at the regional level with respect to this issue. Our intent is to have this in place by the end of spring. And I've reported to you, members of council, about the other things that are working in tandem with this. Essentially the guts, the substance of economic development in Niagara, which front and center is the Gateway Economic Center and the Gateway Economic Zone, which in fact is the substance to Niagara's new economy. And you've had plenty of feedback as well as update on that as I chair that particular committee on behalf of the regional chair. So, you know, there's a lot happening right now, but the bottom line is that this whole direction, this new economy that we're going into, and the delegating of the responsibilities to promote that new economy, we're there, and we're looking at implementation by the end of spring, and hopefully within that time frame we can also get this off the ground with respect to promoting what Niagara has to offer, especially with respect to its strengths. So I'm sorry for being a bit long-winded, but it deserves that, because this is 2 years in the making, guys, and I'll tell you, and long overdue. I think we all can share that opinion. Long overdue with respect to the overhaul of NEDCO. To some extent, it's no longer, as some call it, the old boys club. Okay, those days are gone, and now it's a very cohesive, inclusive, both organization as well as process that we're working toward, and ultimately the mission is to put Niagara's new economy front and center in front of the world, and that's where we're headed. Okay, so with that, any further questions or comments? Dan, anything you wanted to add to this? No, Mr. Mayor. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That'll be carried. Thank you. Great job, by the way. Members of council, we're now going to move on to item 13. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Your Worship. That the Department of Chief Administrator Officer, Special Projects and Strategic Initiatives, report number 2012-02, subject Nian Oil Inc., Port Colborne Energy Park, ongoing activities respecting the preparation for the proposed OMB hearing in September 2012 be approved, recommending that City Council approves A, the Council hereby confirms that it is in agreement with M&M's Limited request to the region for inclusion of Site A and appropriate areas of Site B into the region of Niagara designated Gateway Economic Center and zone lands. B, the Council accepts the request from Nian Oil and a letter dated March 14th and directs the appropriate contacts be made with the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority and the Ministry of Natural Resources to explore this request. Council continues to own these lands, and therefore any reductions in Council's land available for development will impair Council's long-term efforts to see industrial development on these lands, whether as an energy park or for some other use. And C, that Nian Oil Inc. be asked to schedule at the appropriate time a final presentation of the concepts evolving, including a final concept plan to Council and the community in any event no later than June 15th, 2012.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Desmarais. Questions or comments? I have Councillor Kenny, then Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question has to do with some stuff that's in the body of the report. And though we are concerned with the significant wetlands in the B area, Site B, my question is regard to Site A, where it's telling us that there's a large area covered with the spoils, which is excavated material on site from the construction of the Welland Canal and the construction of Highway 58 under the Welland Canal to connect to Highway 140. It's my understanding that in this particular area, It's the northern part of this whole block of land, and the design showed earlier that that's where the tank farms are going to go. So my concern is exactly what is in those spoils that they say. They say should we be worried that there's more contaminants in that land? Should we be concerned that that's the area? And also to bring to the attention of the public that there is going to be a community meeting really showing their final concept. But whether that be June 15th, like it says, or the end of June, whatever it is, but certainly before summer vacation. And I guess I would like that addressed at the public meeting in regards to that, because I am concerned about that. And I guess one other question in regards to the fact that this area will now be part of the gateway development. Is this a for sure thing? Is this something that we brought to the region's attention and we want to be included? I guess that's the end of my questioning on that. Thanks.
I'll first go to Mr. Heil to answer the first two questions, and then I'm going to go to Mr. Aquilina to answer the last question.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I may, on page 165 of the agenda, there's a list of all the consultants that have been retained by Nyan Oil Inc. in respect to all of the studies. All the reports are supposed to be produced as evidence in support of the use or the proposed use of their property. All of those studies, we will demand that they be prepared and available for public review and inspection. And, Your Worship, further to that, it is our intention to hire independent specialist advice, advocate for the municipality, to ensure that any of those studies have any holes that are in them are found and either plugged or fixed. And the public meeting, if you approve this motion tonight, it demands that Nyan host a public meeting on or before June the 15th. All of those studies we believe are going to be provided to us, all except for the environmental impact study that will come later, I believe. All of those studies are supposed to be in the hands of the city on or before, I believe, May the 20th. We will immediately begin the process of ensuring that they get properly evaluated by independent third-party specialists, and as well, hopefully, the comments that the public will be able to provide in their review. It's short notice, but any comments that they will have on these documents will also be given to the consultants and the investigators that we have to incorporate and address anything that anybody has in respect of a concern or a problem or an issue. That's the intention in respect of the contaminants and all of the issues. And well, I'm sorry I didn't get into just the contaminants. That will be a matter that we will ask that be specifically addressed also.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Mr. Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Kenny. At the February 27th meeting, Council approved a report that included Site A and Site B as part of the rural employment lands under the gateway policies that the region right now is considering.
Thank you, Mr. Aquilina. Councillor?
I was away on vacation, but thanks. Now I know.
Mr. Heil.
Your Worship, last week the region hosted open house here in respect of the Gateway Center and the Gateway Development Corridor. Our planning staff were there. I attended just to want to see what they're doing. They are considering Council's specific request in respect of our report that the planner produced at the end of February in the inclusion of the land basically north of the Forks Road in the Gateway designation. Thank you.
Further questions or comments on this report? Just I know you're away, Councillor Kenny, but yes, you're correct in your assumption that, and that's why I spoke on it earlier about economic development and the gateway. Is the intent here is obviously to designate all these lands north of Chippewa Road, second concession, as new employment lands, as new industrial growth lands for the region of Niagara, not just the city of Port Colborne, but the region of Niagara. And of course, if and when the economic development plan then moves forward, those are the folks, both BR&E, located here in Port Colborne, as well as what NEDCO is going to be doing, that are going to promote those lands worldwide for that industrial growth. So, and we're looking at obviously this company too, to grow on some of those lands. Okay. With no further comments or questions, members, Councillor Butters.
No.
You got to move in closer. Sorry, Councillor.
I'm being noisier, that's all. On page 137 of the report, where I have a concern is it says on about, I don't know, third of the way down the page, currently there is a requirement subject to change that all consultants' studies other than the EIS be completed and filed with the OMB by March 31st. We've been asked to mutually agree to an extension of this reporting time to the May 28th, 2012 pre-hearing, which will be held in Port Colborne City Hall. At the time of the writing of this report, our planning and legal advisors are reviewing this request and will likely support it to ensure that studies are as complete as possible before their consideration. By moving that date from March 31st to May 28th, will give a very short time frame between May 28th and a public meeting in June 15th for anybody in the public to actually be able to review those studies. And so my concern is that the public gets those studies, I would hope, long before May 28th. As far as I'm concerned, they've had since last fall to get themselves together by the end of this month, and for a variety of reasons, you know, it looks like they can't meet that deadline. Seems like every time we turn around, we're trying to bend over backwards to help these people, and I'm not sure that we really get a whole lot for our trouble, except more trouble. But that's just my own personal opinion. The fact that the environment impact study will not be completed until after the scheduled September OMB hearing date is of concern to me. They will have a 3-season EIS, not that 4th season as it should be. So there's still like some really problematic things, but the thing that concerns me most is the ability for the public to get their hands on the work that's been done, to properly review it, and then get comment back to us. And I am glad that there's going to be a peer review. That's a good thing, but I don't like these time frames as stated in here at all.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Howe.
Worship, right now they're trying to work out the details, and what we can do is we can ask Mr. Richardson, our legal counsel and our advocate planner, to pursue with MMM points of early delivery, so that once we get them, if we do have it something 3 weeks ahead of time before, but they're going to, as they are finished, to perhaps release them to us in a draft basis, so that we can provide them as early as we possibly can for the public to review.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Councillor Demery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a note of past experience that I've had dealing with other issues like this. As a member of the public, you need a minimum of 30 days to deal with those kinds of reports. It's not something you see on your desk every day. There is a learning curve. It takes a while to deal with them. So 30 days is fair to have it in the public hands before you start consulting on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr.
Howe. Your Worship, and one thing that I think is we will need to impress upon about MMM, their consultant, and NION and legal counsel on their side, is the time it takes. And what we will do, Mr. Mayor, while the public meeting will be held sometime up to June the 15th, the review will be ongoing, and we will make a commitment to the public and give them at least 30 days to provide some comments, so that those comments can be incorporated into the peer review documents. Hopefully, and then the peer review documents, once they do include those comments and become finalized, we'll get them back here, and perhaps there may be a desire from council's perspective to host yet, or to have NION host an additional public meeting in respect to the documents that they've produced and the peer reviews and the public comments that have come from this process.
Okay. Councillor Bodnar, and I'm going to go back to Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should point out that you know, I'm not against giving Nyan a kick in the butt once in a while, but there was some extenuating circumstances of why some of those reports were held up, and I believe it was the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority that was a little late in getting actually designating the property as to what Nyan would have to work with. So I just want to confirm with the CAO that I'm right in that fact, and that, you know, although Nyan has been guilty in the past of dragging their feet, it may be this time that they were, you know, they actually couldn't get it done because of a circumstance where they were late getting started. So.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Hall.
Your Worship, I'll confirm part of that is true. The designation of floodplain, wetland, and bush area, all of that together in review with the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Conservation Authority have been issues.
Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to see that date of May 28th moved to, say, May 15th, and I don't think that that's unreasonable. Request to move that date to May 15th instead of May 28th, mid-May.
Okay, if I can have a seconder to that amendment, please. Councillor Doucette. Councillor Doucette. That's fine. Okay. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you. As sympathetic as I can be to Nyan about what may or may not have happened to delay them and all this, my main concern is the people who live out there in the public, to make sure that they have adequate time to review these studies. They're going to be pretty critical to what may or may not happen there. And for anybody to be able to absorb them and to be able to either accept them as, yes, this makes sense, or vet them in a way that they need to be challenged, you need time to do that. So that's why my purpose is to protect the people that live there and to give them the best chance to be well informed. That's my responsibility, and that's why I think it's important to move the date.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bodnar.
Is there any danger of, you know, I'm all for giving people lots of time. I think that's a great idea. I just wonder that if, okay, so they're not produced on the 15th. Is Nyan going to ask to push back a bunch of other things that may come up? Can they go to the, you know, what's the process? Is there a danger of that? I don't know if there is, but is there something that then will topple other things down the way? I just don't want to. You know, this has been a long, long process, and I think we are all anxious to get to some where we can at least see the end of it. But just to the CAO, is there any problem? You know, I know there's things coming up. If there isn't any, then let's push them.
Mr. Howe.
Through your worship, it's a constant line of communication to try and keep this moving along. If I'm not mistaken, the end of May, the 28th, is an Ontario Municipal Board pre-hearing. And I believe that the studies are supposed to all be finished by May the 20th, which is almost the 15th. Those are the dates that were bandied around. We can ask about an earlier time. As far as doing other things, I don't believe at this point, with all the material that I've read, that there's anything that 5 days is going to jeopardize here. And I don't believe that would be an unreasonable request in accordance if this motion were to be approved. If it's an issue, we will come back to council immediately to make sure that there's good and valid reason why there might be an issue with the 15th as opposed to May the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Further questions or comments? Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. The June 15th date, if the time to review the documents is being questioned, is there any chance of moving the June 15th date? I mean, we're going to have the public meeting, and the time to review is too short. Move the June 15th to the following week, the 22nd or the 29th. I know holidays start, but if you want to give people a chance to review the documents, then move the public meeting date. I think would be the easiest, instead of trying to chase NION back and forth and say, have your reports this date. You know what, we'll give you to the 28th, but you're gonna have the public meeting later in June to give that time to review everything. Is that possible?
Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, the recommendation of June the 15th comes from the discussion with the manager of special projects and our own solicitor to try to keep this moving. It is our intention by the 15th, even if we don't have even if the reports are late, to show the public, because this plan changes, it's a moving target. Every time we turn around, depending on where the environment is, things are moving. And Council has expressed concern with that. The public needs to, from your perspective, we have your direction. The public needs to see this. The public needs to understand what NION is doing. What the intention of the June 15th date is to try to keep the pressure on to move this along rather than let it sit. The OMB hearing is just around the corner in September, 3 weeks scheduled. If it gets delayed much more, there may be more to the board saying we just haven't been able to do this because of the time. I don't know that the 15th, while we're asking that a public meeting be held no later than June the 15th, the intention would be, even if they're brand new reports, is to at least at that point in time illustrate and have NION demonstrate what they're going to do, what their close to final plan is, and give the public the right and the opportunity to review the documents. Their comments, excuse me, hopefully would be available prior to June the 15th, on June the 15th, and after June the 15th, to perhaps maybe even going to the end of June, so that the reports of the peer review should be hopefully available by mid-July or maybe to the end of July, incorporating the public comments. By that time, they will have had opportunity to speak to it, and then Council will decide whether or not it needs to have, or whether NION needs to produce another public meeting in respect of some of the concerns, some of the issues that are expressed from the public or from the peer reviewers. That's the intention. Now, Council can move the date, but we were hoping that, and our recommendation was to get this thing going, get before the public, rather than waiting for, because again, it's a different plan, rather than waiting for something to come up and hold it off later. We thought it might be better to give it to the public sooner rather than later, even though they may not have all of the opportunity to look at all the reports. At least they will be able to see what the final plan is, as close as we can understand it.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. I was going to say Councillor Angie. Councillor Demery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're writing a recipe for disaster if you give the public half the information and say, let's have a meeting. That we had an example of what could happen there. It's a better idea to arm everybody with all the information, give them time to absorb it, think about it, talk to their friends about it, and then sit down and have your meeting. I just think that's a better idea, or inform them right away that you're going to use the step process. You're going to flood we're going to circulate the information as it's available. We'll have one meeting for part of the information and then another meeting a little later for the rest of the information. It gets a little confusing that way, but at least tell them up front how it's going to work out, because otherwise it's just a recipe for disaster. People need to feel that they have some say in their future, because that's what you're deciding here. So they have to be clear on that.
Just for clarification, this is obviously going to come back to Council at that time, and taking into consideration that, as you said, the folks may want to have something to say about their future. Would it be prudent for us to accept that at that time, and look at the possibility, if you're uncomfortable with it, to simply defer it? Mr. Howe?
Your Worship, this date holds the feet to the fire, and it gets those studies done. That's the purpose. I would hate to move the date to give opportunities, and all of a sudden there's a study that's, oh, we didn't quite get it finished.
But again,
and I believe, Your Worship, the best thing to do would be to assess it near the end of the time. I agree with that.
The concern that I have, members of Council, is that, and we've seen another situation tonight where someone asked for something to be deferred based on their future, and Council decided to take the other direction. Now here we're being asked the same question, looking at the future of individuals in a certain area, And there is an opportunity, yes, to, as you say, Mr. Howell, to hold their feet to the fire, because we've been waiting for this for the better part of the last 7 years. And there's an opportunity here to keep on that track and try to bring this to the next level. While at the same time, if council at that time is not comfortable with the lack of information that's available, then council has every opportunity at that time then to either defer it and move forward from there. So again, you know, trying to respect the process, trying to respect the individuals that are involved in the process, and I just don't feel comfortable with making a lot of assumptions, especially when there's a third party involved. You know, let's let it unfold, let's let it happen, and then when that time does come, if council has some discomfort, then of course I can just stand up, rise with a deferral. So I just throw that on the table for your consideration. I'm not trying to put a wrench into your thoughts, but it's just food for thought for your consideration. I just don't want to try to make any assumptions here and try to slow down the process. Okay? Any further comments or questions? Okay, your pleasure, members. All those in favor? Oh, Ron, did you have a comment or question?
No.
Okay.
Are we voting on Barb's?
Yeah. We're voting on Barb's amendment first. Okay. Right. Okay. So any further questions or comments on the amendment? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Now to the main motion as amended. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to item 19. Councillor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the appointment of Floyd Jacobs to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management be rescinded, and that bylaw 5710-14111 being a bylaw to appoint a member to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management be repealed. That Kim Danch be appointed to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management for a term ending with that of the appointing council. And I bring that up for Councillor Danch's conflict.
Thank you, Councillor Bodner. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Butters, any questions or comments? Noting Councillor Danch's conflict. All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, members of council. I think that exhausts all the reports. Not bad, guys. Good job. Got a lot done tonight. That's enough out of you, Councillor Butters. That's enough out of you. Yeah, you have been. I have to give you that. Look at these guys taking shots at you, Barb. What's up with that? Members of council, are there any notices of motion? With none, I will ask for a motion. Oh, nothing, Yvonne? You're all right? Just scratching my head. Okay. I'll be looking for a mover and seconder for adjournment. Councillor Steele? Councillor Doucette? Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Let's now move on to our council agenda. First off, I'll ask the clerk to introduce any addendum items.
Thank you. None this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ashley. Members of council, I need a motion to confirm the agenda, please. Mover and seconder, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Any disclosures? Councillor Danch? Thank you. I have two sets of minutes for adoption. The first set being the minutes of the 6th meeting special of council of February 27, 2012, and the second being the minutes of the 9th meeting regular of council, March 12th, 2012. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Items requiring separate discussion. Councillor Bodner.
Item 19 for Councillor Danch's conflict.
Thank you, Councillor. Remainder of the items. Mover and seconder, Councillor Steele, Councillor Butters. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Councillor Bodner, item 19, please.
That the appointment of Floyd Jacobs to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management be rescinded, and that bylaw 5710-14111 being a bylaw to appoint a member to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management be repealed. That Kim Danch be appointed to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management for a term ending with that of the appointing council.
Thank you, Councillor Bodner. Have a seconder to that, please. Councillor Kenny, any questions or comments? Noting the conflict, all those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you, Councillor Bodner. We'll now move on to proclamations. I do have one proclamation here, members of council. It's having to do with Earth Hour. And I need a mover and seconder. That whereas the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, isn't that a wrestling organization?
No,
It's been a while. It's been a while. That whereas the World Wildlife Fund is preparing to host its 6th Global Earth Hour event on Saturday, March 31st, 2012 from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. And whereas last year Earth Hour took place in a record 5,251 cities and towns in 135 countries and territories in all 7 continents and had an estimated reach of 1 billion, that's a B, billion people across the globe. And whereas participating in WWF's Earth Hour is a simple way to show you want to be a part of the solution, and it sends a powerful message. Together, we can make a difference. Once again, it will call on every individual, business, and community throughout the world to stand up, take responsibility, get involved, and lead the global journey to a sustainable future. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Vance M. Badaway, Mayor of the City of Port Colborne, proclaim Saturday, March 31st, 2012, from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. as Earth Hour here in the City of Port Colborne. And all the citizens and businesses of the City of Port Colborne are urged to turn off their unnecessary lights and appliances on Saturday, March 31st from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Members of Council, I need a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Butters, Councillor Desmarais. Are there any questions or comments to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to the minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. I have 5 sets of minutes, and if you don't mind, members, I'm going to do them in block. That's fine. I have the minutes of the Canal Day Strategic Planning meeting and committee meeting of February 1st, 2012. I have the minutes of the Seniors Advisory Council meeting of January 19th, 2012. The minutes of the Volunteer Committee meeting of January 10th, 2012 and February 23rd, 2012. The minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting of November 2nd, 2011 and February 1st, 2012. And finally, the minutes of the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting of March 5th, 2012. Whew, a lot of meetings. You guys are hard at work, eh? I see you've been busy. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Doucette, questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Are there any notices of motion, members? With none, Madam Clerk, if you can introduce the bylaws, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That the following bylaws be read a first, second, third time and finally passed. Bylaw 5772-2712 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a memorandum of agreement between the City of Port Colborne and the YMCA of Niagara for programming at the warm side of the Valley Health and Wellness Center. Bylaw 5773-2812 being a bylaw to authorize entering into a contract agreement with Anthony's Excavating regarding tender 2012-7, supply and installation of a potable water cistern and submersible pump for Centennial Beach Park. Bylaw 5774-2912 being a bylaw to appoint a member to the Port Colborne Gateway Business Improvement Area Board of Management.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Desmarais, Councillor Kenny. Questions or comments to the bylaws? One question, Ron. I apologize for not giving you a heads up on this prior to, but the tenders, the contracts, all the capital work, are we going now? Are we getting all those off the ground? Roads, everything that was included in our capital budget for 2012. Everything, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That will be carried. Madam Clerk, confirmatory bylaw, please.
The following bylaw be read a first, second, third time and finally passed. Bylaw 5775-3012 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular and special meetings of Council March 26, 2012.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If I can have a mover and seconder for the confirmatory bylaw, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Elliott, questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Members, that is it. With that, members, I am going to announce our next meeting dates before I ask for a motion to adjourn. We have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, April 10th, here in the chamber, beginning at 6:30 p.m. It is a committee of the whole and council meeting. Following that, April 23rd, 2012, once again here in the chamber, committee of the whole and council, and once again beginning at 6:30 p.m. Members of council, if I can ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Councillor Bodner, Councillor Danch, are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That would be carried. Members, have a great week, and to those in the public, have a wonderful, wonderful week.